Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope y'all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talking, they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in. Here gonna show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
Birdland
What's up,
BS.
BSers?
Little something different for y'all.
Different vibe, different feels. Had to change it up, man. It's been 2 years since we had the same intro. Shout out to our boy MD's Finest for coming through with the fire intro yet again.
I think he sent that first one over to you, and I was like,
Yeah, man.
"Ooh, man!"
I'm telling you, ask and he delivers.
Yes, he did.
Shout out to my boy Matt, man. Appreciate it as always. What's up, everybody? It's been a little while. Took a week off. Scott
took a few weeks off.
Yeah. Scott was enjoying the finer things down in Florida.
If you can't tell, for those of you that may be, well, let's be real. Fred, you're the only one that's tan impaired, apparently.
Yeah, my skin does not do well with
We
that
literally
big bright thing
spent
in the
like
sun.
20 minutes trying to dial in my tan next to his white body.
No way to do that.
No, wasn't happening.
So we got a lot to catch up on.
A lot.
It's been a roller coaster of a couple of weeks. You know, we had the loss to the Steelers, the bounce back win against the Colts, and then we get embarrassed again on national TV for the second time this season.
Yeah, it was not pretty. This game did not go how any of us thought, but we're going to break down what we saw go wrong and what we saw, in some cases go right in this game. So we're going to talk about that.
And they got to bounce back quick, man. It's time to regroup. Those mighty, mighty Titans coming to town.
Fuck you. Just so you know, he did that because my boss is making me sing it tomorrow and the chant from "We Are the Titans."
I don't know how many times I heard that today. It was
like
terrible.
20 separate times.
They got to regroup, man. Got to bounce back. Derrick Henry and Cruz coming to town, so it's gonna be a tough task. Terps, the Maryland Terps, 2-1, big win over Penn State 2 weeks ago. Then had to cancel due to COVID this past week against Ohio State, which would have been like the classic Fred Bowl, right? My two favorite colleges again. It's when Ryan and I first met. It was like destined to be a game for me to watch, sit down and enjoy a couple beers over. But
what I heard was you had a hard on and then went flaccid.
Essentially. But so they got some good things rolling.
Yeah.
Hopefully that continues. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we got a whole hodgepodge of things in the rundown. The Masters, Phoenix Suns making some moves, the Marlins making some historical moves, and a ton of things to cover in this week's rundown. But before we do too much, we do want to remind you, if you've ever been injured at work or in an auto accident and weren't sure who to call, 855-MD-CRASH. So the Maryland personal injury attorneys that'll have your back. If you find yourself in that unfortunate situation, and I know I have, give our team at MD Crash a call right away. We all know the cost of medical bills, lost wages, and pain and suffering. It can all add up quickly and potentially put you in a bad financial place. If you want a team that'll handle your case, big or small, and just give you some peace of mind, save this number now, 855-MD-CRASH. It's 855-632-7274. Be sure to follow them on Facebook for some fun giveaways, including gift cards to some of your favorite local restaurants. All right, Scott, it is time for some flock news.
It is.
As we talked about, Ravens get embarrassed on national TV again for the second time this season as they fall to the Patriots 23-17, fall to 6-3 now on the season. And the sledding doesn't get any easier from here on out. They got two tough games on the mend in Tennessee and Pittsburgh next, back-to-back.
And yet another primetime game, by the way, the Pittsburgh game.
Right. But starting out with this wasn't a game that I think any of us saw coming. I mean,
this was just a bad game in so many facets.
It really was. Bad weather, bad injuries, bad snaps, bad decisions,
And
bad defense. I mean, it was bad all the way around. But
I
the one,
was gonna say, can I sum it up for us?
yeah,
This loss is not on Lamar.
yeah.
For all of you fuckers that are sitting here saying that, I've been holding in all the cursing for like 2 weeks here. For all you fuckers that are sitting here saying it's Lamar's fault, shut the hell up and watch football. Maybe you'd learn something.
Yeah, this one was definitely not on Lamar. And listen, Lamar hasn't played to the MVP expectation I think that we all had of him this year, obviously after winning the award last year, and we all had high hopes for him this year. He hasn't played up to that level, but there's a lot of reasons for that, right?
Yeah.
That don't just fall on Lamar's shoulders. It's not just Lamar single-handedly. But in this game, I mean, Lamar was 24-34 for 249 yards passing in a freaking monsoon, mind you.
With two TDs in
It
this
was
game.
pouring its ass off. You remember that scene from like Forrest Gump? It was stinging rain, raining from the side, raining up from the bottom.
At
Like,
one point, the rain was coming straight up.
I'm going to lean against you. You just lean right up against me, Forrest. That's how it felt. I mean, I had never seen rain so intense, especially like the end of the game in that fourth quarter, like towards the very end of that game. I mean, it was, you could barely even see like the players.
Who, let me ask this. Who decided it'd be a great choice for the Ravens to wear the white jerseys, the all white jerseys, not just the white tops.
Yeah.
You wore the white pants in that game too. Like who really thought this through? It's a good thing there weren't fans in the stands because there'd have been some. Kaylee saw some dogs during the NFL combine. You've seen some dogs hanging out in that
Ravens
game.
got bigger problems than worrying about their wardrobes at this point, man. This was a bad game. This was a bad game, and like we said, for many different reasons. I think the biggest dilemma right now with this team is the injuries first. These injuries, I mean, they just keep piling up and piling up. You already had Calais Campbell, who was out of the game. He had, hurt his calf the week before, so he wasn't in this game. Then early on in this game, you lose Brandon Williams. He goes down with an ankle injury. Now, Brandon Williams, as much as he doesn't show up in the stat sheet, as much as he, you don't hear his name on Sundays a ton, I'm going to tell you now, the difference in the run game for our defense when Brandon Williams is in and when Brandon Williams isn't is massive.
We've seen that. We saw it last year when he was out for a little bit. He was out for a game or two, or I think he was 3 games, if I remember correctly.
Something along those
lines. Something along those lines. And we saw the immediate impact that the other teams were able to find the holes easier. He is a force to be reckoned with. And we've talked about this before. Just because a guy's name isn't called doesn't mean he's not playing an impact. Just because he's not making the tackles doesn't mean he's not forcing the runner to the outside, where you have Judon making some tackles, where you have Ngakwe Sunday making some tackles.
Right.
It plays a huge role in him going down early in this game. We saw it right away.
Yeah. I mean, it's huge. You're talking about usually about a 60 or 70 yard game difference on the ground when Brandon Williams isn't in there. That's massive. And without Williams and Calais Campbell, you've got a couple of rookies out there in Broderick Washington and Justin Madubuike. You had Jelly out there, Ellis, who was kind of getting pushed around. Now, granted, again, part of this falls on the conditions. It's Foxborough, to our point, Sam Jackson out there, Steve, our buddy Steve, chiming in that, a lot of teams probably would have lost in Foxborough in those conditions. New England, they're pretty accustomed to playing in those environments. But I will say this, Cam Newton's not. Cam Newton is new to New England. Cam Newton is used to the Carolinas, right?
Right. And let's not forget that offense didn't blow us out either. Right. This wasn't a blowout game. When I look at this game, and I think Deshaun says it really well, it was bad, but it was so winnable.
It was winnable, but the point was this should have never been a close game. I mean, when you looked at the matchup going into this game, I don't think anybody predicted that this would be a close game.
Oh, we were heavily favored.
We were all heavily favored, and I think in all of our predictions, we were heavily, going towards the Ravens in this game. So not only was it not just a close game, but we ended up coming off on the losing side of things. And a lot of that came down to inability to stop the run. Yeah. Damian Harris was a force against us, especially through the middle there, again, without the 2 big guys in the middle. So again, sticking on this injury train, right? We went into this season with high expectations for our secondary, right? And everybody talked about how great this secondary is and how great they are, and they are. But
when they're healthy.
When they're healthy, and that's the problem. We've just it's one after the other.
Jimmy Smith doesn't start this game yet again. We see the injury between the injuries previously, the injuries and the suspensions. Right. We've seen the issues with him. He goes down. He's not there. Maybe he comes back this week. We'll see. But that was a huge loss that was felt in that secondary.
Right. And then you bring up Terrell Bonds, who would be getting some playing time here and there. He steps into a bigger role. He goes down.
Yeah.
You sign a guy during the transition from week to week from the Colts to the Patriots, and you bring in Williams, the guy from Green Bay.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah. Trenton Williams,
right? No, what is his name?
Trayvon Williams.
Okay.
Sorry.
So they bring him in, and he's got to get acclimated to the defense, and he's expected to play big minutes right away. This secondary is now very vulnerable. They have 3 healthy cornerbacks at this point?
Yeah, well,
including a guy who's brand new.
Right. Well, and the other part that was scary about all this, right? You and I saw it. We immediately started texting each other about it.
Right.
Later in the game, it was about late in the third quarter, early fourth quarter. There was a play in the end. It was the play in the end zone where they wound up putting them ahead, and you saw Marlon Humphrey come up off the play, grabbing at his shoulder.
Right.
Immediately. And they showed the replay. He did it was a pick. They set up a pick, and Marlon just went right into it. The guy clipped his shoulder, but Marlon immediately grabbed.
Right.
We yet to see it, but I wonder how much he will practice this week, how heavy he's going to be practicing this week. If he, I don't think he dislocated it, but it's probably sore.
I mean, the way he wasn't moving his arm was kind of dangling there as he went off the field. Now, granted, it could have just been like a stinger, where he pinched a nerve or whatever. He got off on the sideline. They kind of worked it out, and he was fine because he did come back in the game. But still, it makes you wonder. That's your $100 million cornerback when you're already depleted at that position.
By the way, all that we just talked about was all the defense.
Right. Exactly. And then the big news in this game, you end up losing your number 2 tight end, your number 1 blocking tight end, and Nick Boyle to a serious knee injury. He's now done for the year.
Have we heard exactly what the story is on that?
I don't know what the
what the injury is.
I don't know what the specific injury is. They said that he's done for the year, and it was a significant knee injury. It looked bad. I mean, it immediately as soon as it happened, I think it might have been Lawrence Guy who was out on the field, was calling for the sideline to come out. It was rough.
At first glance, I just thought it was a bad hyperextension.
Right.
Because, you see that a lot. The leg went directly back. There's no doubt about that. But then when you see the slow-mo and you see the angle, he was like a freaking flamingo.
Yeah.
That knee was back all the way.
When it first happened at full speed, I thought it snapped. I didn't see it bend at his knee. I thought the lower half of his leg had snapped. That's what I thought. So I thought it was even going to be worse. But that's a big loss. The Ravens right now are down to 1 tight end prior to today. Today, they did end up signing Luke Wilson, which we'll talk about that a little bit.
But this is on a team that let's look at the offseason, right? We lost Hayden Hurst, and we never actually replaced him.
No, we never did.
And so now you lose Nick Boyle, who is, in our eyes, our best blocking tight end and one of the best blocking tight ends in the league.
Yeah, that's why he was paid the way he was.
And he's going down on a team that last year blew the league away, which, in my opinion, is what helped the run game be what it was last year with a 3 tight end set.
Yeah. I think they threw for something like 12 to 16 touchdowns, something along those lines out of 3 tight end formations last year.
Well, now we're down to 1. What are you going to do?
Well, it starts with bringing in a veteran. They had to bring in somebody. They had Luke Wilson kind of in the wings. They had him try out a couple of days ago. So they bring him in. They sign him to the practice squad today. So that's step 1. There are 2 guys on the practice squad that they have as tight ends, but I don't think anybody has real expectations for them as of right now, but they're at a position where they're bodies, and that's what the Ravens need. How fast can Luke Wilson, who has never been a number 1 tight end option in his career. I think he's like 30 years old at this point, might be 31. He's played the majority of his career out in Seattle. I mean, he's been that kind of tight end too. He's filled in when Disley went down last year. He filled in a little bit, did okay for them. He's not a severe threat in the passing game by any means. I don't have high expectations for him, but at this point, he's a veteran tight end who should be able to learn the system kind of quickly, and fill in the gap.
Well, and now. Joe says Pat Ricard, the new tight end, and I tell you what, they were trying to use him a lot more yesterday or Sunday, and so I did kind of see that he was more so in the fullback set a lot more than we've seen him in recent weeks.
Right.
So does he move to tight end? I don't know. I saw a lot of things going back and forth. I was curious to get your take on this. There's arguments of move Boykin to tight end. Mm-hmm. Or we know Dez is still technically on the practice squad. Right. We can technically use him for I think it's one more game before we have to offer him a contract for him to play. Right. A full out contract, veteran with its veteran minimum. So the other thought is, okay, do you make him that guy?
Both of those are, I guess, intriguing backup plans just because Miles Boykin obviously has the size. He would need to put on a little bit of weight, I guess, to be an ideal tight end. At this point, he hasn't worked out great as a wide receiver, but the one thing that he does do well is he blocks. Now, granted, he's going up against corners when he's out there as a wide receiver.
Right.
He's
not
going up against
linebackers.
Outside linebackers and DNs as a tight end, so it's a little bit different. So they could go that route. Dez Bryant, he's got the size, he's got the strength. I mean, he's not real tall. I think he might be maybe 6 foot or 6'1", which is relatively small for a tight end.
Right.
I think Miles Boykin, if you're going to ask for either one of those, is the better option. And I still think that Dez Bryant can bring some excitement at the wide receiver position. And I think he needs to play outside.
Yeah.
And personally, I think they need to move Hollywood inside. I know we'll talk about that later. I know Willie Snead's doing great in the inside right now because he's basically their only option at this point inside. But I think anybody in that inside role who's playing between the hashes is going to do well in this offense the way it's schemed up right now. And that's the key word. The way that this offense is schemed, it's designed to do well with that slot receiver.
I think it's interesting to shit, right? Because who's been doing well in recent weeks? Guys on the inside. So you got Snead did well in this game. And then Nick Boyle, who's been doing well. How many times have we seen Nick Boyle make some catches here recently? He has caught more balls this year than I think he did all last year.
Right. I'm not one of those guys to say that Lamar can't throw to the outside, can't throw to the numbers or beyond the numbers or anything like that. I'm not that kind of guy. I just think that this offense, the way it's schemed up, it's not to throw to the outside of the numbers. It's to throw over the middle of the field. It's to keep everything inside. And I just think if we're going to stay with the scheme and Greg Roman isn't going anywhere and there's not going to be any big changes, I think Hollywood would work better in the slot in this offense because we're just not getting anything out of him right now on the outside. We're going to talk about him later.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I was just going to say, Deshaun says put Boykin and Dez on the outside and Snead and Hollywood in the middle. I understand where you're going with that, and I think that's kind of what Fred was saying.
Yeah.
But the other thing that you got to play into this whole role is where and how and when are you going to get Devin Duvernay in there? Because Devin Duvernay, when he's been getting the catches, has been coming up with some good yardage, good yards after the catch, getting open at times when he's in there. But I've not seen them utilize him in any scheming as much as I would like to see.
Yeah. So this kind of leads me to my next point as far as dealing with this tight end situation, right? You've got Mark Andrews as the number one tight end. That's it. Luke Wilson, he might be ready next week. I can't imagine he'll be ready this week. He might get some snaps this week just because he has to.
He has to go through some of the COVID testing too.
He's still got to go through that, right? So I don't even know.
He might not even be eligible for this week
right.
since they announced it today.
I'm not 100% on that, right? So I think what they really should do, in my opinion, in this situation that they're in right now, is I feel like they should spread them out a little bit, spread the wide receivers out, and I think having that one-on-one with Mark Andrews as the as a single tight end, I think will bode well for him. You can get more wide receivers on the field, get Devin Duvernay, as to your point, get Hollywood working out of the slot, with the rotation of Willie Snead in there as well. And you can really do things. And that's what Lamar did well in college. Lamar didn't run this style of offense, didn't run this scheme of an offense in college.
Yeah.
He ran more of a spread offense and did really, really well with it in college. I can see that happening, but is that even in Greg Roman's wheelhouse? Is that even in his playbook? Like, would that even be an adjustment that he would make? I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that that's his style. I think personally, I think Greg Roman is a run game coordinator. I think he's a run game coordinator that is in an offensive coordinator position, right? He's not good with developing route combinations and passing schemes. I just don't think that he has the ability or the depth in his playbook to create more of a spread offense.
So there was, I believe it was yesterday or the day before. It was on one of the NFL networks. I forget which one it was, but they were talking about this run game, right? And so one of the things that they were talking about was this scheming that we're seeing out of Greg Roman is eerily similar to what Greg Roman did with Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Right. And Colin Kaepernick, everybody said, it started to go off. Well, now we're seeing the same coordinator with another QB with the same skill set. That's in some arguments, some people are saying, and I think I agree, better. And yet we're seeing the same exact failures.
Right. No, I 100%. Shout out to our boy Lunch Break Hot Take. Shout out. Hey, congratulations on 1,000 followers on YouTube, man.
Yeah, man.
If you're not following them and you're watching the show, go follow those guys on YouTube. Good
Some
content.
good takes.
He said that they've been calling Giro a run game coordinator for a minute. And it's true. A great minds, right? I do. I think that, to your point, with Colin Kaepernick in San Francisco, he had that great year in 2012 where they went to the Super Bowl against us and lost, right? And then after that, it was never the same. Once teams kind of caught up to the scheme and started playing a little bit smarter, and Greg Roman, I'm not saying he can't make adjustments, because he's made adjustments in the run game. I just haven't seen the adjustments in the passing game yet. First of all, like I said, it was a freaking monsoon. Why was Lamar throwing the ball 35 times in a fucking monsoon?
Yeah.
Never in this game did I ever feel like the game was so far out of reach that we needed to start chucking the ball down the field in a monsoon. But he had Lamar throw the ball 35 times in a monsoon.
Right. And the one thing that is being taken away from this game is Gus Edwards actually had a damn good game.
Right.
For what he was given. 42 yards on 7 carries. He was averaging 6 yards on average. His longest was 11. JK, 2.6, but he only got 5. Mark Ingram, this is one thing I know my blood was boiling when they started him. Because I'm sitting there going, this is a guy coming off injury. You're putting him in right away.
Yep.
In what we knew was going to be a wet and heavy game. Now, maybe you get him his snaps in ahead of time before the rain starts, before he slips and hurts the ankle again. Okay, maybe. But he got 5 snaps, 5 yards total.
I agree with you. I agree with your point, but I don't think Mark Ingram had any impact on whether we won or lost this game. I agree that he should have never started.
No, and that's to me, that is an impact. Because if Gus Edwards is in there, maybe it's the same. Maybe it is because of the play calling. But we don't know if we continue to trot Mark Ingram out there when Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins are consistently putting up better numbers. And we're not giving him the snap count. You got to run it. You are a run defensive coordinator trying to play in the passing sandbox and completely ignoring what you're already good at.
To your point, Gus Edwards, 7 carries for 42 yards, a 6.0 average. Why are you not riding the hot hand? Why are you evenly distributing the ball? 7 carries, 5 carries, 5 carries. Why do you have to have such a balance? I think it's great that we have the riches that we do at the running back position, but why aren't you carrying the hot hand? There's been a couple games recently where, to your point, where Dobbins looked great. Why are you not carrying it towards him or catering it towards him? In this game, Gus Edwards had the hot hand. Why are you not catering it towards him?
Chuck, Gus needs to be the lead guy at this point. Agreed.
I agree.
And Deshaun, the tempo is different when Ingram plays. That's all the things that we're saying, guys. And we 100% agree with you over this.
Yeah.
It's something that comes into play. Dave, a big play chiming in, our resident Browns fan over there. He says, that's what it's like when we gave Carlos Hyde touches over Chubb. That'll get a coach fired.
That's when you pick up a head coach at the local like auto shop, Freddie Kitchens. That's what happens there. Shout out to Dave, man.
That's giving him too much credit. I think they picked him up at the bar.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. But so another thing, talking about change, right? Another thing that needs to happen with this team is there needs to be a shakeup on the offensive line.
Oh, yeah.
Big time. And it starts with Matt Skura.
Look, Matt is a friend of the show.
Yeah.
He has been on the show before. We
Great
definitely
guy.
want to have him on again. And to all, I'm going to put a disclaimer out here before we go any further.
Go for it. I already
To
did on
all
Twitter.
you motherfuckers.
Wow.
I'm going hard here. All your motherfuckers that sit here and were going off on his family, let me find out any one of you motherfuckers that did that shit. That's crossing a fucking line. And at that point, all this political shit of stuff being turned off because somebody, you know, is going one political way but not another, and motherfuckers are threatening a man's family that they had nothing to do with this game.
Yeah. It's sick, man. It's just people with
Screw you guys. Go home. Go screw yourself. I don't care what you do, but stay away from a guy's family. If you want to, and kudos to Matt Skura. You know what? They lost, but for that after fact, he gets a game ball from me.
Yeah, the post that he put out.
The post that he put out on Instagram.
He took ownership. If you haven't seen it yet, he put a post out on Twitter and a post out on post out on Instagram. He took ownership for his play, but then defended his family, rightfully so, with fans, you know, sending threats and things like that to his wife and all this shit.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And shout out to our buddy on Twitter, Matt Wise.
Yeah, that was great.
So if you haven't seen this, Matt Wise retweeted one of Matt Skura's tweets and copied in Matt Skura's foundation. And it went from like $1,200, I think in 2 days, it's up to like $10,000 for Ravens Flock to kind of show what Ravens Flock is really about, that it's just not these couple of bad apples that represents an entire fan base. These idiots, they exist in every fan base, right? It's just, there's no room for it. Now, with all that said, Matt Skura played like shit in this game. And he has played like shit for really a lot of this year. And it comes down to snapping the ball. It started 2 weeks ago. And
I'll debate that. It started before
bad.
it got worse. It got
worse 2 weeks ago. And they said, well, he has a cut in his finger. And I thought, okay, you know, when you're snapping the ball, a cut on your finger, it can affect it. I can understand that. So I kind of I didn't really take it that seriously.
I saw a great comparison this week of, you know, talking about pitchers in baseball.
Right.
When you get a pitcher in baseball, it gets that blister, keeps bleeding. It becomes a problem with grip.
Right.
So it's a great thought, and that's why it passes our mind by. We don't think anything of it.
Right. So I didn't put too much into it, and then he had like one or two bad snaps in this game, and I thought, all right, between the combination of the cut and the monsoon that they're playing in, you know, maybe that's why but it just continued. Yeah. It continued. And again, Greg Roman stayed in this pistol formation because that's what this offense is predicated around, is this pistol formation.
They even outlined in the game how many times he's under pistol and not even under center.
It's so stupid to me. It's in the middle of a rainstorm like that, when you got a center who's having problems with snapping the ball, why are you not putting Lamar under center? Yeah. Why are you not doing that?
They should be in the I formation almost all game.
Hey, how about this? Take Skura out, put Makari in, who did great at center last year.
So I'm going to go a step further. I wouldn't take Skura out.
Or shift him.
I shift him. I moved him to guard. And here's why. One of the things, if you remember, back in like week 3, I said that I thought Skura was he was jumping the gun a little bit. We saw some early pre-snap penalties from him.
Yeah.
And it was like he was trying to get off to make up for coming back from the injury, for timing, to make sure that he could get it. I think that's playing a role in everything that we're seeing. He's not getting a good grip on the ball. He's just tossing it back, not focusing on his mechanics of getting it back.
Right.
I think there's all these things playing a role. But I think in a game like that, it was still a close game in the third quarter.
Yeah.
At that point, when he made that first bad snap in the third quarter, I think at that point, it should have been a shift. You put Makari or Bozeman under center, one of the two. You shift everybody down, putting Skura at guard. He still can block at times. But if you can put him in a better position where he's not having to think, just let these guys go, make the adjustment. I'm not saying that there would have been a different outcome into this game, but I do think we would have seen a different impact in this game.
I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you. And in this game, you talk about bad decision of the game, bad play of the game, however you want to look at this. That wildcat formation that they ran on 4th and 1, when you've got a center that's having problems snapping the ball, mind you, it's 4th and 1. You're down 10 points in the pouring rain.
And you put the best running QB in the league out to the left.
Right. You snap the ball to a running back who hasn't played in 3 weeks.
In the rain.
With
gloves on.
With a center who has snap problems.
It was doomed from the beginning.
And to your point, you've got Lamar freaking Jackson, who's the most lethal threat with his feet in the league.
Looking like Joe Flacco standing out
there like Flacco, like a damn statue.
You know what was crazy, though? I saw the replay of that and the zoomed out shot on film study.
Yeah.
He's standing there. Think back to when everybody gave Joe Flacco a bunch of shit for standing there.
Yeah.
Now I'm going, wait a second. This is being designed this way.
Right.
If that's me, Lamar is gone. Utilize his fucking speed.
He didn't have time to go anywhere. The ball was snapped and the ball was on the ground.
But he wasn't even going on that.
No,
he literally was standing there anyway.
I agree. But it was the bonehead decision of the game, bonehead call. It was poor. But so what do we do, right? What do we do to fix this offensive line? There needs to be a shakeup. There's been a lot of talk about either benching Matt Skura or, to your point, moving Skura to guard.
Somebody said it in the chat, and I did look it up. And here, I'm going to tell you guys, take this with a grain of salt because it's coming from Jason frickin' Lockenfora. First off, this is from Inside Access 1057, which is Jason Lockenfora's show. Very likely the Ravens move forward with Bradley Bozeman at center, given the recent issues with snapping the ball.
And that was going to be my suggestion. It was actually going to be my suggestion, is moving Bozeman from left guard to center, who played center in college. He played center at Alabama in the SEC, played against top level, talent. And I think a lot of people in the organization thought that eventually Bozeman would be their starting center. It just never happened because I think Matt Skura played at a level that they didn't expect him to at the position, and he did well for a while. But listen, whether it's mental for Matt Skura or what, you can't have those kind of mistakes in a game. I don't know how many times Lamar saved his ass with one-handed catches, fingertip catches, shit down on the ground that he was pulling up over the past couple of weeks. There's been a lot of plays that we're not even talking about that Lamar saved face for Matt Skura, right? So this problem could be a lot worse if it wasn't for Lamar. There needs to be a change. So in my opinion, yes, I think Bozeman is the start at center. And then maybe you start talking about at left guard, you've got Phillips, the rookie. If he comes back, he's healthy. You do have, Matt Skura, you shift him over. You got Makari. Any one of those three, I think, can play that left guard position depending upon who's healthy. I think at right guard, you got to go with Ben Powers. He played a little bit in this game. Yeah. I've liked every time I've seen him on the field. There hasn't been any glaring things about him that jumps out to me. I don't understand why he hasn't been more involved on this offensive line.
The only thing I can throw out there is we haven't seen him out there for a sustained amount of time.
No, that's true.
So that'll be the test, right? And that's for some reason or another, they have decided up till this point, until it was absolutely necessary, to not go that route.
Right.
And so for whatever reason, it's there. I think you're spot on with him being there. I haven't seen anything that makes me, wary or anything like that. And then I think where you're going with this, you put in Fluker at right tackle.
Between Fluker and Makari. If Makari's not playing one of the guard positions, he filled in at the right tackle position a little bit this past week and looked fine out there. So I don't know. There just needs to be a shakeup on this offensive line. I think the one piece that you're not moving is Orlando Brown at left tackle right now,
Oh, no.
just because he's done well there in the couple weeks that he's filled in. And he's the one non-question mark on this offense.
And we got so CB chimes in and says Ben Powers has been solid, but it's such a small sample
You're right.
size.
It is a small sample size. And that's what I'm saying. None of us know what to expect in a full game. And I'm assuming these coaches know a hell of a lot more than we do as fans. Yeah. But the small sample size that we've seen in the couple games that we've seen, I haven't seen anything glaring.
And Justin brings up what I was kind of saying. Like, he likes Matt moving to guard because he's a scrappy dude.
I agree.
He is. He had snaps in college at Duke. He was mainly the center, but he did have snaps. I think it was left guard. So it would be a fine fill-in for him and no problem. I think when he first came up, they had him taking snaps at left guard.
Right.
So I think it makes sense. He can do it. He can make it happen. And if you have to do a rotation, like you said, of him, Phillips, Macari, when he's not playing there, he's helping out with rotation with Fluker. I think you can develop a rotation between these guys. My one concern is the concern I've been blasting all year. Depth for this O-line.
Yeah.
If one more of these guys goes down, we're screwed.
I feel like we're like that at every position right now.
We're
so thin at every position right now. We were built around depth at key positions, and we are just so decimated with injuries right now. Two of our biggest positions of depth that we thought going into this year, cornerback and defensive line, have been hit with a massive amount of injuries over the last couple of weeks. So yeah. We'll see what happens with that. Speaking of what happened, I guess the other topic that's hot out there on social media right now.
I thought you were going to go with what happened was
Hollywood Brown. Where is he? Where did he go?
He's pissed.
Yeah, he doesn't look happy. I mean, every time you see him walking off the field, he's shaking his head.
Oh, he was front and center with Lamar right in front of him this week.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think that was frustration with Lamar per se. I think that was more both of them having frustrations with maybe the play calls at that time. I saw what you're talking about on camera.
He was chirping.
They were both chirping, and it was hard to tell if they were chirping at each other. I think they were both just frustrated with the situation and again, the play calls.
NFL needs to have that prime piece where we can get mic'd up. We can hear what the hell's happening.
Yeah. They don't want us to hear that shit. I can tell you that right now. But no, I mean, listen, this was a guy that I think both you and I had really high hopes for this year.
Especially after how he looked last year.
Right. We both predicted him having probably over 1,100 yards this season in receiving. That ain't going to happen at the pace he's on right now. And again, like you said, last year, I mean, he was playing it, we said, 80% last year because he had the screws in his feet. He had 2 touchdowns in his opening game as a rookie with screws in his feet. He had 2 touchdowns against the Rams in his first primetime game, right? And him and Lamar just looked like they were building a chemistry.
Yeah.
They put in all this work in the offseason together, one-on-one.
Yeah.
All that time down in Florida, even through the whole COVID,
chemistry.
which was developing chemistry, right? We watched on social media as he went through this body transformation, put on the extra 20 pounds of muscle, right? While gaining the speed back, as far as getting his health back with his feet, right? So I think we all were primed to think that based on what he did last year, that growth from year 1 to year 2 was going to be exponential, but it hasn't happened yet. And it hasn't happened for a multitude of reasons that aren't all Hollywood's fault. But what I'm seeing on the field right now is I'm seeing a guy who isn't giving 100% effort. I'm seeing a guy who's constantly frustrated. And I'm seeing a guy who Lamar isn't really looking his way a whole lot. And then he's verbalizing those frustrations on social media through the tweets that we saw that now he's deleted and moved away from social media. There's a lot of shit show going on with Hollywood.
All right. So I do not know the answer by any means, and I'm still unsure myself, but I'm going to ask you a question. Is he not giving 100%, or did he put on so much weight that he actually did lose the speed? Because I tell you what, I said it. I texted you when I saw it in that game. It happened twice. You said, the first time it happened, the guy was pushing him out of bounds.
You're talking about when he had JC Jackson on the outside, and JC Jackson was step for step. Jackson was using his body and kind of boxing him out against the sideline, because if Hollywood goes out of bounds there, he can't come back in bounds and be the first one to catch the ball. So Hollywood's ground to
unless
work
he's
with.
reestablished himself. if he immediately reestablishes himself and turns on the afterburners that he supposedly has and beats Jackson, yes, he can touch the ball as long as if he's the one that he can't on his own run out of bounds and be the first to catch the ball. But if he's pushed out of bounds and reestablishes himself, he can be the first to catch the ball. So to me, that argument's a little null and void. But it happened for the second time in this game, where he couldn't beat Jackson, and it wound up leading to a pick because Lamar's trying to force a play, and that's a different story. But I have yet to see, more than on a spotty occasion, Hollywood beat his man this year.
Yeah, no, we haven't seen the explosive speed I think that we all expected.
Which is where I'm agreeing with you. I don't know. Is it he's not giving 100% this year because he's getting more and more frustrated? Or is he not getting the looks because he's not beating his man?
I think it's partly that. I think it's partly Lamar on that interception that he threw forced that ball. That was a bad decision on Lamar.
No doubt. And Sam, Steve, I'm not saying he's a type of receiver to go for a 50-50 ball. You're right. He is no DK Metcalf for Julio Jones. But
to that point, that's exactly what I said on Twitter. You can't throw those kind of 50-50 balls to Hollywood. That's a 10-90 ball for Hollywood.
Oh, it is.
And you know, I know Steve Smith was a gritty-ass wide receiver, and he was 5'9", and he'd go up and at least break those passes up, that kind of thing. He would at least make the effort.
Yeah. He became a defender.
If he didn't make the catch, right? And we don't see that from Hollywood. Steve Smith is going to be a Hall of Famer. He's in a class of his own.
Yeah.
We don't see that traditionally out of wide receivers this size. You don't make that pass. That was a bad decision by Lamar, but I think Lamar was in a position where he felt like he needed to get Hollywood involved. He needed to make a play, and he forced the ball in, and it was a bad decision. It got picked.
And there's some people, Lamar underthrow that ball. I'm not going to go with that's an underthrow. I'm going to throw it where you should be.
You should be able to go up and make a play, but again, at his size.
Right, but J.C. Jackson also held the inside. He kept him on the outside, which is, if you're going to keep a guy on the outside, that's fine. That's actually technically to the receiver's advantage. But if you are 8 times out of 10 not beating your receiver, you are not going to get that look for the long ball. I've got to try to force it. He's going, well, you're the closest guy that I can maybe get it to here.
Yeah.
Yes. Is it Lamar's fault? Yes, but I'm not going to give Lamar 100% of the game or 100% of the blame because I'm not seeing Hollywood beat his man like he did last year.
I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. The thing you got to take too into consideration, this is J.C. Jackson. He a Terp. He was also a very good corner. He's developed to be a very good corner in the league. Pro Football Focus has him rated as like a top 10 or top 15 cornerback in the league right now. He's doing well, right? So again, I just think we had very high expectations. I don't think they're utilizing Hollywood the right way. They're not scheming him up the right way. I think he's better suited for the slot. I think you need to get him out in space where he
let him find those over the middles.
Yes.
When the safety's biting back, linebacker bites up on the run.
Let him catch the ball in space and make plays with his feet. Let him use his athleticism. If you just want to use him to run 9 routes all day long down the sideline, cool. You can do that. You did that with Torrey Smith for years, and I guess it worked with him, right?
Yeah, but Torrey Smith was also a bigger guy that could go up for the contested ball.
Right, and Torrey Smith didn't have quite the athleticism and the shiftiness and the quick twitch quickness that Hollywood has. But we're just not seeing that in this offense and in this scheme. So, I don't know. It's disappointing. It's disappointing on all accounts. It's disappointing on Hollywood's side. It's disappointing on Greg Roman's side, again, for not scheming him upright. And it's disappointing for Lamar because they look to have such good chemistry. And I'm a guy that I start reading into shit. I know I probably shouldn't read into this kind of stuff, and I shouldn't look at this stuff. But, you know, Lamar and Hollywood, you constantly saw them walking into the stadium together. You constantly saw them
riding the cart together. Yeah,
you'd see them after games on Instagram or after practices on Instagram, posting to their lives, them dancing and singing to shit in the car ride home. You haven't seen that in weeks now, right? So I don't know if there's something internally going on with maybe those two. I don't know. I hate to speculate that kind of stuff. I just see what I see. You know, and it concerns
you're making the deduction based on, reasonable deduction based on what you're seeing. So I can't blame you. You know, I know we talked about the bad defense in this game. Let's just break down real quick the run game. That's probably the biggest thing. We talked about the injuries. We talked about some of the issues. Damian Harris gashed us up the middle, 22 carries for 121 yards, 79 before first contact, meaning he's finding the holes and not even being touched.
And that goes to show what I was talking about earlier. You know, you have Calais Campbell go down with the injury last week. He wasn't there. You had Brandon Williams go down early in this game, which I told you historically has been like a 60 or 70 yards per game on the ground difference when you don't have Brandon Williams in there. You got a couple of rookies and Justin Matabuke, who's looked good when he's been out there. Broderick Washington, who looked decent when he's been out there. But you got them out there filling in for those two guys. Ellis was getting pushed around a little bit in this game. He played decent. I mean, he played decent on the defensive line, but they were gashing us right down the heart of this defense. So you got those guys. Linebackers in
Don't
this
even
game.
get me started on the linebackers.
So again, this goes down to just the rookies in this game. Matabuke and Washington on the defensive line. Patrick Queen and Malik Harrison both look terrible.
I said it during the game. I was seeing during the game, not even going back and looking at the game film. During the game, these guys were biting way too early on the hole that they saw or where they were anticipating the run, and it was opening up an entire hole on the other side.
Yeah,
and you can't do that as a linebacker. You can sit back and watch where the guy makes the move, then go close on the hole. Yeah. If he gets a yard, like that's great. But you can't be biting on a hole that he just shifts and goes the other way and winds up getting 6, 8, 10 yards before he's even touched.
And even when the backers did pick the right hole, they were getting trucked. They were getting dragged. Oh, yeah. I mean, Harris was just lowering his shoulder and driving right through guys. I mean, there was one run in particular that I saw him run right into the belly of Queen and push Queen back about 6, 7 yards before he eventually went down.
How bad in this game were we missing LJ Fort?
Oh man, what a signing he was last year. Like we all talk about how much of a find that was last year and what it did for us last year.
You're seeing it now with
but you see the impact of not having LJ Fort out there. And this was the first game that I thought Patrick Queen looked really bad in. Not only did he look bad against the run, he looked lost in coverage. I mean, he dropped coverage and really didn't take Rex Burkhead serious as a receiver out there and gave up that touchdown with the half-ass, coverage. Yeah. It was a bad look for those guys. Now, granted, again, they're rookies. They're learning.
It was even Harbaugh said that one was Queen. It was a rookie mistake. He needs to learn from it. He hesitated. If he doesn't hesitate, maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe it still does. But he hesitated. We all saw the hesitation in real time, and then we saw even more in the slow-mo when they decided to play it like 3 times in slow-mo on his hesitation. Right. So huge piece there. That's why I asked you, because I think LJ Fort. We keep using the term dumpster dive, but this guy was a guy that was sitting on the couch when we got him. And look at what happens when he's not there.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of other factors. I get that. I don't know that I think this game is tighter with LJ Fort in there because of the experience.
If we have LJ Fort and we have Brandon Williams, both of those in this game, and they're playing the entire game.
I'll take Brandon Williams or Calais Campbell.
The Patriots don't run down the middle like they did.
No,
it doesn't happen.
The holes aren't as big. They close quicker, gives the linebacker more time. Yeah, agreed.
And like I said earlier, I mean, again, continuing about the defense. They're down to 3 healthy cornerbacks at this point, and that's including the new guy in Tremont Williams, right? Hopefully they get Jimmy back this week. Hopefully he can come back because Jimmy's been playing lights out. I think he's been, if not our best corner, but he's been a top 2 corner. He's played better than Marcus Peters this year for sure.
Agreed.
In my opinion. And you have him back. You put Tremont Williams, who's a veteran, who's played a lot of good years out in Green Bay. You put him in the slot, right? Now you've got 3 good cornerbacks that you can rotate between Peters and Humphrey.
Now I'm okay if you blitz Jimmy. Some of these guys.
Right. I'm all right if you could get him back healthy, but we are super, super thin. I think Anthony Averett is on the mend. He might be back in 2, maybe 3 weeks from now. Yeah. So we might see him late for a playoff push, but I'm concerned. I'm concerned with all the injuries. I'm concerned with how this defense looked in this game. Man, just never thought that we'd be saying that about this defense. This defense was doing so good for so long in the beginning of the year.
Speaking of concerns, I've got one for this coming week. It's this guy right here. Derrick Henry gashed us last year.
I'd say so.
Now, beginning of the year, I'd be like, all right, we're going to be good. We're going to be good against Titans. I was. I'm questioning next week.
Yeah. Again, it's going to come down to health. I mean, it's a running theme here. At this team
it does.
right
and staying with the healthy theme for a second, right? That's the biggest thing for this game. This game on both sides of the ball. We're going to get into stats and what they've done and what we've done. Both sides of the ball, this game will be won in the trenches.
100%.
Period.
And off the edge, like Derrick Henry ran quite a bit against us last year.
And for the Ravens, offensively and defensively, we both, I think, agree that we have serious questions and concerns with the lack of depth that we have right now and sustaining any other potential injury. Knock on wood. We're screwed if one guy goes down in this game on either side of the ball.
Yep.
And it got me thinking, and this is for future, there's no way you get him in and have him ready for this week. Not going to happen, but maybe for the Pittsburgh game. We need some help defensively, especially with these guys going down. Calais, hopefully he comes back, but hopefully he doesn't re-injure. You hope that B-Will comes back and doesn't re-injure.
Right.
You got enough room in the cap. You go knocking on Petco's door again?
Petco was a big addition last year. But
he did well.
What kind of shape is he in?
That's the biggest question.
Could he step right in and play, right away?
He already knows Wink. He already knows the scheme. It's a guy that's in-house. He's a free agent. I know
he knows the
technically
system,
retired.
so the system wouldn't be the thing. It's what kind of shape has he kept himself in? He's an older player, right? He did well for us last year. I just don't know if that's realistic to think that you could go sign him tomorrow and have him start on Sunday. I don't know if that's realistic.
I'm trying to solve an in-house, a problem semi-in-house.
I'll tell you how you solve it in-house. And this is the way, I think the only way that the Ravens beat the Titans on Sunday. You got to get back to what you did last year offensively in the sense that you got to control time of possession. You got to limit the amount of times that the Tennessee Titans are on the field and as many touches that Derrick Henry's going to get. You have to limit it. So you have to not just control it, you have to dominate time of possession. And that falls on the offense. The offense has to be super efficient. Last year, when they got the ball, and maybe this is just me, obviously I was in the stands and, the atmosphere was there and I was always pumped for these games and all that stuff. But every time the offense touched the ball last year, I had this level of confidence and this feeling inside that they were going to score every time they touched the ball. In some way, shape,
or form. Exactly.
They were going to score every time they touched the ball. I don't feel that this year, and I haven't felt that at all this year. And they need that in this game. They have to control time of possession. They have to score every time they touch the ball. They got to have these long, sustained drives that just kills clock because if you don't have Calais Campbell out there, you don't have Brandon Williams out there, you've got rookies at linebacker. If LJ Fort's not ready to play, Derrick Henry's going to get his. Just like Patrick Mahomes is going to get his when he plays against us. And Derrick Henry's going to get his.
Last year, we were having 4-minute drives that were resulting in points. Now we're having 2 and 3 minute drives that are resulting in no points. That's where you got to your point. I called it during that game. I said that first drive when they got possession in the third quarter, they needed to have about a 7-minute drive that took time off the clock and scored.
Right.
Even if it was just a field goal, they had to score.
Yep.
What do we do?
Super efficient in the red zone. Yep.
It killed us in this game. Mm-hmm. So let's look at this by the numbers, right? Let's talk Derrick Henry. Let's start with him, right?
We've been on Derrick Henry.
Well, yeah, we've been on Derrick Henry. But let's talk about what he did against us in the playoffs last year. Let's start with that, right? Yeah. So last year, he had 30 rushing attempts against us in that playoff game. 195 yards, 6.5 average. He had a 66-yard run, was his longest, which we all remember that run, and we're not even going to get into that.
Yeah. Earl Thomas gift that will never go away.
Yeah. then there was the fact that he also caught 2 passes in that game.
Yeah.
Right, for 7 yards total. Not huge.
I don't worry about Derrick Henry in the pass game.
No.
It's what he's going to do against us on the ground, how he's going to – I mean, this guy is a defensive end with 4.4 type speed and can just power through you. He's 250 pounds at 6'3".
Although somebody said he looked like he lost weight.
No, he ain't lost
week.
maybe an ounce.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. But
His
no,
cheek looks a little thinner.
He's like 250 pounds. He's a modern day Eddie George in the way that he was built. Eddie George is a guy that I absolutely idolize. I loved him growing up. And obviously I was a big Ravens fan. So when he got drafted by the Titans, it was the rivalry back and forth between them.
Yeah.
But he's got that mold. He's got that body feel. And we don't have a Ray Lewis to go up against him and stuff him.
No.
So the only way I think that you contain and beat Derrick Henry, to my point earlier, is controlling time of possession and being super efficient on offense.
You have to be. This year, he's got 201 attempts. He's first in the league on rushing attempts. He's second in the league on yards, 946 yards already this year.
Right.
He's tied for fifth with touchdowns out of running backs. That's 8 rushing touchdowns. He's averaging 4.7 yards per carry, which is actually 16th, middle of the road in the league for this year.
Well, I'm not worried about what he's done against everybody else. I'm worried about what he's doing against us and against how he's going to look against this defense.
Yeah.
But our offense has a chance in this game because Tennessee's defense is not very good. They're ranked 25th, giving up 398 yards per game as a total defense.
Yeah.
277 on the ground. Or no, 277 through the air.
No, you're right. 277 on the ground, 120 in the passing game.
That can't be right.
They're giving up more in the run game than they are in the pass game.
That can't be right.
I double checked it.
Really? Wow. Well, they're 17th at giving up 26.1 points per game, right? So their defense.
You're making me like triple check it now.
I can't believe that that's right. That they're giving up 277 yards.
I'm looking at the stats.
But just go check. No, you're good. But again, their defense is susceptible. So this is a chance for the Ravens to get back to that ground and pound offense that we've been wanting, right? Find the hot hand. If it's J.K. Dobbins who's got the hot hand in this game, stick with him. If it's Gus Edwards that's got the hot hand in this game, stick with them. I want to see some, where we talk about being a balanced offense and all that stuff. Yeah, you want to be a little bit balanced as far as run versus pass, but not with us. Not with what we're built to be.
You were right.
You had it reversed.
Checked.
I thought you had it reversed. Damn it. But still, 277 yards through the air at 120 yards on the ground.
120 yards through the ground is nothing to scoff at.
400 yards of total offense that they're giving up. So we can do it. You just, like I said, you got to ride the hot hand. I think you get J.K. Dobbins involved in a lot of the dump offs because he's got that, again, that elusiveness, that low center of gravity where he can make plays out of the backfield. If you're not just giving him the ball, if you're just doing a dump off, that's fine. I want to see some crossing routes, some easy, quick routes where you can hit your receiver in stride and let Hollywood make a play. Let Willie Snead make a play. We saw that against, I think it was against the Steelers, where Willie Snead on a crossing route caught the ball on the move and took it for a big gain.
Yeah.
Those are the type of passing plays in this offense that I want to see. Because if you can do those underneath routes like that, that's eventually going to open up the passing lanes down the field for the big plays, which have been a complete miss for this offense.
Yeah. Well, and then the offensive side of the ball for them, they're passing at 225 yards a game, and they're rushing at 148 yards a game. Right? That's a scary 148 yards is against some pretty stout defenses recently that they've played against.
Right.
We're thin. We know we're thin.
Yep.
Look, we're getting into predictions in a minute. I'm worried Derrick Henry has another 175 plus yard game against us. He has one game so far that he had 212 yards in.
Yeah.
I'm worried that we're thin enough at this point and we don't have enough experience out there, and the guys that we want to have out there. I'm worried this is going to be a good big game for Derrick Henry, and that's going to get people up in arms. See, they can't do it, but they're not taking into account this is not the defensive line that, to somebody's point a few minutes ago, chimed in and said this was the team. I think it was Steve, that we designed this defense to beat.
Right. All right, well, that leads us into our prediction segment. Before we do, want to do a quick social media shout out. So for you guys out there that don't know, if you haven't realized, James has been in the chat room. Ryan's been in the chat room. I think Brian, I've seen him in there a little bit in the chat room. Drew's in the chat room. We're under COVID isolation as a Birdland BS staff. Scott and I are in the studio tonight by ourselves.
And we'll play it week to week by ear.
Yeah.
Whether we do this here or
we could
virtually.
go back to a remote show for those who have tuned in for us for the past year and a half at least. You saw us do our show for a while there remotely. We could go back to that moving forward.
Just safety protocols, keeping everybody healthy, making sure, especially around here during the holidays, just so you guys know, we're trying to keep everybody healthy during the holidays. So.
All right, but let's go ahead and run down these names. Go ahead, Scott. Just start shouting
All right,
out.
Steve, Drew, James, Craig Zero, Deshaun, Nick, Steve, Garnett, Dominic, Garnett again, Justin, Chuck. Let's see, there's a whole bunch of you guys have been chiming in. Jeez. Dominic, OG Ray Jack, Craig Zero again.
Deshaun.
I know I said Deshaun earlier. Joe Carlozo. I should have let you pronounce that name. Steve, Samuel L. Jackson. What's up, man? Let's see.
Ryan.
Well, who cares about Ryan?
CB.
Nobody cares about Ryan.
Got a lot of you guys chiming in.
Alex,
appreciate you chiming in, man. We got a lot of people out there. Sharon, Sherry, I know I saw you earlier. Appreciate you chiming in. We're trying to make do. It's a lot for us too now with everything that we've done just to be on our own. It's a lot to keep up with.
We have a whole new appreciation for all these
Hi,
guys when they're not here. Yeah. So, all right, we appreciate you guys. Keep the comments coming. We're trying to work them in. As if you haven't noticed, we're keeping them coming. Keep them coming. We're trying to work them in as we can.
Get your predictions in. We're getting ready to get into our primetime prediction. We're going to start with the Ravens. The Ravens and the Titans. Let us know how you guys see this game shaking out. What are your score predictions? Scott, I'll let you kick it off.
All right.
Ravens, Titans, Sunday, 1:00 at the bank.
So I got to point out before we do that, last week I went 0-3.
So that real song.
Brian went 0-3. James went 1-2. Ryan went 1-2. You went 2-1. You now lead the league 26-13. I'm 18-21 along with Brian. James 23-16, and Ryan is 25-14. You got the pick to click yet again, which makes it 6 for you, my friend, and I think it puts it completely out of reach for everybody else.
Yeah,
I think if you get one more, it's done. That's it.
Right.
But you predicted the Colts would beat the Titans 27-24. They wound up winning 34-17. So you
one
had
of the worst pick to clicks I've ever gotten.
You had a point differential of like 14.
Yeah.
And our rule is you can't just have the point differential. You have to have the winning team.
Right.
And you had it with 14. It's the worst point differential.
You guys had some good predictions as far as scores go, but you had the wrong teams.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So let's get into it this week. We got Ravens and Titans on Sunday at 1:00. For me, look, this will be a first for me. It's the first time this year I'm not so sure that the Ravens can do it.
Not feeling confident, huh?
Not that the Ravens can do it. Look, I'm a Ravens fan, but I'm also, we've talked about this, I'm a realist.
Yeah.
I have concerns. I do think it will come down to technically a one-score game. But I do have the Titans winning this 32-24. I think Derrick Henry's going to gash us for too much and more than we can handle. I think we're going to be able to handle their defense with our offensive play as long as we get back to running the freaking ball and then opening up the passing game. I just don't know that we can cap Derrick Henry with the staff that we have right now.
I'm right there with you. And this is a first for me as well. I don't see the Ravens winning this game. I think that if we were 100% healthy, especially defensively, I think we have a good chance at winning this game.
Yeah.
But there's so many question marks going into this game as far as who's going to be available, who's not. And we saw what the Patriots and Damian Harris did against us last week.
And no home field advantage because for this game, no Ravens fans either.
None. I made that announcement. So if you haven't heard, there will be no Ravens fans at the stadium this week.
Yeah.
So yeah. And basically neutral playing grounds.
Brian and Ryan are right there with us. Brian has Titans winning 31-10. I think he's lowballing our point score there. Ryan has it 31-20. So he's a little bit better. I think you and I are more on the same page than the two of them. But James is the only one that still seems to be drinking the purple Kool-Aid. And I
like it.
I hope he's right.
I hope he's right too. I will gladly take the L right on the forehead.
We will take
one.
we will take shots on air in James's honor next week if the Ravens win, because I hope we do.
On air regardless. But
Yeah, right. Exactly. We might need to fill up here in a minute. Ravens. He's got Ravens 27-17. I absolutely hope that that's the case. I hope we do make it happen.
Let me put it out there because I didn't put my score out there. I just said they were going to lose. So I've got the Titans winning this. It's going to be a close one. And again, I just don't feel confident. I don't have that confidence in the offense that I had last year. I still don't, I got to see it. They got to prove it to me at this point. That's the way I feel about this team, and I hate that. I had such high expectations for this team going into this year, and I don't feel it.
It wouldn't be as bad if we didn't have the injuries from last week. I'll be honest with you.
I agree. Like I said, if the defense was healthy, I'd feel a lot more confident. I got the Titans winning 27-24.
B. Will and Calais Campbell are in there. I'm probably agreeing with Drew here, who's he's one of our guests that comes on every once in a while. Drew says Ravens 30-27 in this. He thinks it's going to be a close game, just like you and I do.
Right.
But he's got it being there. Dominic, scroll up for me a little bit. We got some of these predictions flowing in that I want to get out there. We've got Nick says Titans 24-16. Let's see. Dominic says 27-20 Ravens. So we've got some mixes here. Go up
Joe
a little
says
bit.
28-20 Titans.
23-20 Ravens from Craig Zero.
Nick.
Alex says 35-20 Titans. I hate it, but we just have too many injuries. That's what we're saying, man.
Yeah.
It just comes down to that. We got some other predictions flowing in for some of the other games.
All right,
we'll
let's move right on to that. So Thursday night football, and probably, in my opinion, will be one of the best Thursday night football games of the year.
Listen to Steve chiming in here. 35-25, no purple Kool-Aid, Ravens win.
Okay, listen.
I hope you're right, Steve.
Steve is a guy who is a 100% a Lamar believer, and he believes in this team, and I love his confidence, and I hope you are right, Steve. I really hope you're right.
I sure hope you are.
We just have so many question marks. But all right, and like I said, I think what's going to be probably the best Thursday night football game of the year, a rematch.
Is this even a question? This is the best Thursday night football game here with what we've seen so far this year.
A rematch of the Cardinals and the Seahawks. This game was back and forth at the end of the game, ended up going into overtime, and the Seahawks ended up blowing it. This was the game, I think this is the game that DK Metcalf ran down the defender and tackled him at the 20 or at the 5-yard line. Buda Baker, that's right. Yep. So it's a rematch of that game. That was an ESPN classic, right?
Yeah, that was a good game.
It was a great game. How do you see this game shaking out?
For me, I've got this being. I think there's a hot streak, and somebody said it a few weeks ago that Kyler Murray right now is where and what Lamar was last year, and I think that's a good comparison.
Mm.
It's maybe not 100% accurate, but it's still a good comparison because Kyler Murray has the better arm, in my opinion, of the two of them. You don't think so? Okay.
I don't know.
Either way, he also has a true fucking number one wide receiver.
He has the best wide receiver in the game.
So
stupid Texans.
I have this being a one-score game. Yet another one-score game for me. 34-27. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals.
I'm going to go the opposite way on this.
Really?
I do think that this is going to be another close game. I think Russell Wilson goes on a run here for the rest of the season and wins his first MVP of the year. Russell Wilson looked great the first 5 weeks of the season. He was on a absolutely ridiculous pace. And I think he's got a little chip on his shoulder after losing that game against the Cardinals. I'm a believer in Kyle Murray. I got Kyler Murray on pretty much every one of my fantasy football teams because he's an absolute fantasy beast, right? And like I said, he's got one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver in the game now, and DeAndre Hopkins there, right? I think this will be a close game, but I think we see another kind of big play at the end to make a difference in this game, and I think it goes the other way. Seahawks win 31-28.
All right. Well, you are apparently in line with Brian here. So I hope that it follows suit with Brian's picks here recently, because Brian also has the Seahawks, but he's got to be in a bigger game, 2-score game, 42-30 in favor of the Seahawks.
Wow.
James and Ryan both also have the Cardinals as well as me. They've got James has 37-31 Cardinals, and Ryan has 42-38 Cardinals. And I know I saw Drew chime in because he's been pushing those over to us with all of his scores. Drew says he's got the Seahawks winning 38-37.
So we're split 3-3.
3-3.
3 Seahawks, 3 Cardinals. All right. Sunday Night Football. Kansas City Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champs, go into Las Vegas. Almost said Oakland. Go into Las Vegas to take on the Grudens and the Raiders. The Raiders. Raiders are playing good football. They're a team that I really didn't have a whole lot of expectations for, but they had, like, I want to say 30 draft picks in the first 3 rounds of this year's draft or some shit like that. I want to say they drafted 19 wide receivers in this draft, something ridiculous like that. Like, they're building down there in Las Vegas, and I think they're playing a little bit above where I think a lot of people expected this team to play, and I think they'll stay in this game. I don't think this is going to be a blowout by the Chiefs. The Chiefs haven't put it all together yet, which is scary because they're still a very good football team. They're a very good football team, probably the number 1 contender for the Super Bowl again.
Yeah.
But they haven't put it all together. And I don't think that this is the week that they put it all together. I think the Chiefs and the Raiders keep it close, but the Chiefs ended up pulling it out 35-27.
I don't have it being quite that close. I've got it being 33-21, but I agree with everything you just said. The Chiefs is just playing too good. The Raiders have been surprising in what they've done.
Yeah.
But they haven't been next level. Right? They just haven't gone to that next level, next tier of play. So I agree with you. Chiefs win 33-21. James and Ryan both also agree with us. James says 41-27. He's got this being a little bit more of a blowout than you do.
Yeah.
And then Ryan's got it being probably the closest out of anybody next to Brian. He's got this being a 35-32 Chiefs win.
Okay.
And Brian has this being a Raiders win 30-27.
And our buddy Drew, he's got this in a blowout. He's got the Chiefs winning 42-20 in a 22-point
So he's
blowout.
got the biggest blowout of all of us.
Chiefs are on a vengeance to come back and beat the Raiders after losing the last time.
Yeah, it's chip on your shoulder, but you can't ignore what they did to him the last time.
That's true. That's true. Monday Night Football.
What could be the second best game of the week?
Could be a very good game.
This is the Rams go down to Florida. They take on the Bucks. This is a clean sweep.
Take on the COVIDs.
Yeah. The Bucks. The Bucks are winning this. Is a clean sweep from all of us. I'll just leave it. I think did Drew go Rams? I think Drew went Rams.
I think Drew did go Rams. Yeah,
Drew did go Rams 20-14.
So yeah, it might be a clean sweep, but I'll be honest with you. To your point, the Rams have played good all around football lately. They look like a much improved defense. Their offense is starting to get rolling. I think they keep this game real close, and I think it comes down to whoever has the ball last in this game. Look, Tom Brady he's been like very boom or bust lately in the last couple of weeks. But I think on Monday Night Football, we all know Tom Brady always does well on Monday Night Football, right? I think between him and what the Rams are doing, it's going to be a tight game. I got the Rams pulling it out late, 31-30. Very close game. Not
far off from you, but I've got the Bucks as well. Did you say you got the Rams pulling it out?
Did I say Rams? I meant Bucks.
Okay. I had the Bucks pulling it out as well, 28-27. The one thing that I think is going to play a huge factor in this game, how much are the Rams going to miss Andrew Whitworth on that left guard or that left tackle spot? Right?
Yeah, veterans played a long time in this league. He probably played his last snap.
He may have. I haven't heard much about the injury. I haven't really looked into it either.
This was probably going to be his last year anyway. He's played a long time.
He may have had one more year in him left, to make a last hurrah kind of thing. But yeah, I think we've yet to see how this affects the Rams long term because he went down, I think, late in that game. Look, it's gonna be a tight one. And this could go either way. I'm saying right now, the Rams very well could win this game. It is going to come down to a last possession for somebody. I just think it's going to be the Bucks, and I really think it's because of Whitworth going down.
All right, man. Brian's got the Bucks 37-17 in a blowout. James got it 34-24. Ryan's got it Rams. So he was the one guy that's got it Rams.
Oh, no, him and Drew have it
out
Rams
of us,
then.
right. Rams 28-17. All right, Scott, it's time for the Liquor Stop Brew of the Week. And what did Jerry and the boys hook us up with this week?
So this week's brew comes to us from Port City Brewing Company. It's out of Alexandria, Virginia. This one is called Integral IPA, and it stands solid at a 7%.
We've had some pretty good beers from them in the past,
Yes.
haven't we? This one, to me, it's got a little bit of a tropical undertone, not a normal citrus undertone. This has got a little bit of I would say pineapples and mangoes, and just got a little bit of everything tropical in it. What do you think the company's got to say about it, though?
So here's what they've got to say on their website. They say, breathe deep. Integral IPA is all about big, complex aromas, coaxed from some of your favorite new school American hops. A refined, dry body serves as a golden-hued canvas for layers of hop character. Think overripe pineapple. So you called that one.
Nice.
Guava and melon.
I don't even know what a guava is.
You ever had a guava?
Nope.
We're going to get a guava. You're going to try it on there.
Yep. You can see how much I ate my fruits. Guava. No idea.
They say you can thank Hop Zuka and Hop Bursting for that. So not a bad beer at all.
Not at all.
This is yet another good beer that we've actually had from them. I bought the last few times that we've gotten from them. And then I'm going to bring it up again because it was so good that we bought more.
Yeah, if you haven't had this yet, man, get there to get this.
And James didn't want to drink it because he hates Dreamsicle. But it's Dreamsicle orange cream, hard apple cider.
The whole lot of flavor.
So you get the Dreamsicle to start.
It's like an orgasm in the mouth.
You went there, I didn't.
I don't know what that's like, but I'm just saying if I did, that's probably what it's like.
Is it orange cream in your mouth?
There you go.
There you go. But this stuff is good. If you're looking for something that's got a lot of flavor and something that's really strong in that cider taste and the aftertaste, it's there. But in the beginning, that Dreamsicle flavor is actually really, really good. So make sure you guys head to Liquor Stop, 1510 Conowingo Road. Let them know Birdland BS sent you, and you'll get your 10% off.
All right, Scott, it's time for some Shell and Tell. Ryan, we miss you. Wish you were here for it. I know it's been an interesting couple of weeks. As we flew on cloud 9 there for a few days as the Terps won a huge game, go up to PA and stuff it in Penn State's face, just like Joe
Carlozo,
just like they did to us last year. As they beat Penn State in their house, 35-19.
Yeah, huge game here. Look, it was a short road trip for them.
Yeah,
great weather, and they were playing with a lot of grit and a lot of fight.
Yeah.
They looked good. I got to ask you. Right, you gave me a lot of shit a few weeks
you're
ago.
going to eat that sandwich.
We'll see.
You're going to eat that sandwich.
We'll see.
We'll see. It's been 2 weeks now, and it was against Minnesota and Penn State. Eat them words.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Eat them words.
We'll get to that in a minute. Can Talia keep it up?
Yeah, I have a lot of faith in him, and it goes beyond just Talia. It goes to the outstanding play of this offensive line. The offensive line, I mean, we all had question marks, and there's still question marks, especially concerning the depth. You know, like we talk about with the Ravens, they're 1 or 2 injuries away from potentially starting some pieces that
could be in a trouble situation.
It could be very detrimental. But if this offensive line stays healthy and continues to play the way that they're playing right now, and they stay away from the COVID, stopping the parties after the games and shit like that, that's been a problem. Get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
The offensive line play has been crucial to Talia. Other side, the playmakers, which we all knew going into this season were going to be good, especially the wide receiver core. Raheem
Jarrett. Yeah.
Raheem Jarrett, he has been as advertised, if not better. Dante Demas, we've talked about him since Ryan and I went to the spring game last year and we first saw him. We said, that's a body and a guy that has potential NFL talent. We just hope he gets to see the field and gets to display it here while he's here in Maryland. We're starting to see that.
So, all right. So Talia was 18 for 26 for 282 yards in this game with 3 TDs.
Yep.
2 of them to Raheem Jarrett.
Yep.
Who had 5 receptions total. So 5 receptions, 2 of them being touchdowns for 144 yards in this game. Let me ask you a question. How high is Raheem Jarrett's ceiling after a game like this?
Raheem is the sky is the limit for this kid. He's got the work ethic. I mean, we saw the workout videos, and this is a kid, again, in high school. You saw the workout videos of Rakim. You saw the workout videos of Ruben, right? These are 2 guys that take their fitness to a whole new level, right? The week prior against Minnesota, he had some family and some friends challenging him on social media. He noted that and then went out there and had a huge game. Turned up field like we all hoped he would. The 2 touchdowns that he caught looked like mirror images of each other. I mean, even the play-by-play announcer, kudos to her, who called it as it happened with that second touchdown. Like, last time they lined up in this formation, Rakim went the house, and boom, same exact play. Yeah. He goes to the house again. It was crazy. I think the sky's the limit for that kid. And the good thing about it, again, is they've got weapons all over the field. They've got Ja'Shawn Jones. They've got Dante Demas, right? Brian Cobbs has played good. Yeah. They've got a really, really good wide receiver core that a defense can't hone in on any which one guy because they've got so many to break you down.
No, and you bring up Demas, right? He had 6 receptions in this game for 86 yards and one of the other TDs in this game that Talia threw. So huge deal here for these guys and just what they're able to bring to the table. I do have to ask, because you talked about workouts, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to make everybody think a little bit further back. This goes out to Ryan and it goes out to you because the two of you had said at one point, and there was a video that even Ryan put out of him trying to do a Ruben Hippolyte workout video. Whatever happened to the two of you doing a video of that workout together?
Together? I didn't know we were supposed to do a video together.
We said it on air.
He put out a video of him on the beach.
And then after we brought that up, he said he was going to challenge you to it, and you said, let's go.
Let's do it. We're supposed to do a basketball game, too, remember?
We haven't done that yet.
1-on-1, Ryan, I'm coming. Taking it down.
So, but yeah, no, this wide receiver core has done well, but they've been on the other side of that, right? Let's talk Jake Funk for a minute.
Yeah.
This guy's a 5th-year senior, coming off surgeries on both knees throughout his collegiate career.
Yep.
Has he done enough this year so far? And mind you, this game, he had 16 carries for 80 yards and 1 TD. Not a bad line.
No. I mean, it's a little shy of what he ran for 220 the week before, but
just a little bit.
Still a great line against Penn State.
But even still, has he done enough this year to cement a place in the draft or at least on an NFL roster next year?
Man. As much as I, huge Terp fan, I love Jake Funk, I don't think his game translates to the NFL. And when you're talking about a guy with 2 major knee injuries, and you're talking about a shelf life of a running back in the NFL. Already short. They're usually like 3 years. I don't think Jake Funk has much of an NFL career, but I will tell you this, he will 100% still be in the game. He will be a coach. If Mike Loxley doesn't hire Jake Funk as a coach, as a running back coach or strength and conditioning, something to keep him here, that's a huge miss for this university because he's got everything about it. The players love him. I mean, they've all called him Coach Funk, since day one, right? So I don't think he's got NFL prowess as far as playing potential, but he could very easily get into the game as a coach at a very, very young age, right after college, and then eventually maybe have an NFL career as a coach down the line.
I don't blame that. I think it's a smart move. I have to look, or maybe our Terps BS expert over there could chime in with if he knows what Jake Funk's master is, what his master's or bachelor's will be in or is in. I'd be curious to find out.
His brother's a doctor.
Yeah, I'd be curious to find out if it translates or if he
Dr. Funk.
Does he have other plans outside of football with a career in whatever he's going to master and whatever he's going to get his degree in. I'd be curious to find that out.
I'll tell you what, he'll be a guy that right after the season, I'm going to try to get lined up for an interview for the Shell and Tell podcast because can't get around this guy, Dustin. If you're watching the show, screw you, Dustin. Can't get around that guy. We'll figure out a way. We'll do it after the year.
Yeah, there you go. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
In this Penn State game, two big names in this game. At defense as a whole, 7 sacks, 6 pass deflections, and 2 interceptions.
Sacks is a big number because that's been something that missed the first 2 weeks is we didn't create a whole lot of pressure. We didn't get a lot of, home. So against, again, a team like Penn State to get 7 sacks, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's huge. So let's talk about one of the bigger impacts in this game, in my opinion. Chance Campbell. Chance Campbell's been playing out of his mind recently.
Not just this game. It's been all year.
Yeah. 6 tackles, half a sack, right? So, but 6 tackles, 2 fumble recoveries, one of which was for a TD.
Right.
Big game out of this kid. What are you seeing out of this kid that's taking him to the next level?
He's a leader in every which way the word is represented. Like he's a leader in the locker room. He's a leader, in the huddle. His football IQ is just, it's immense compared to some of the other linebackers out there. I talked about it on the last episode of Shell and Tell that I think you need to start considering his name in the talks for the Butkus Award, which is for the best linebacker in the nation. Yeah. And right now, through 3 games, he's played that well. If we get to that point where we actually start giving awards out because COVID, that whole factor. But we saw him kind of spring onto the scene last year, made some big plays, and we started to kind of notice him last year. And we thought, man, this is a guy that we have high expectation for to take that next step this year.
So far,
he is not disappointed.
Another guy that hasn't been disappointing. He's had a few up and down games. There's a few, I think 1 or 2 busted coverages that he was involved in, but I think it was him making up for somebody else's busted coverage. Nick Cross, 8 tackles in this game. He does have 1 sack, 2 pass deflections, and he did have the 1 interception in this game. So let me ask you as a whole, this defense no doubt is looking good.
Yeah.
Chance stepping up, Nick playing well, Ruben getting in on the action this past week, looking really well.
Ruben had a big game. He had 2 sacks in that game.
Big game here for him. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to be real.
Okay.
Don't be drinking the red and gold Kool-Aid. Okay. Right. Be real.
I like it though. 64 ounces of Kool-Aid.
All right, Bert Kirsch. Is this defense that good against some of these top tier teams? Or is this a false sense with the way that some of these offenses are playing on these big name teams consistently badly?
I mean, the defense as a whole hasn't played that good. I mean, they played good in this Penn State game, but nobody has really played bad against Penn State. The defense didn't play very well against Minnesota. They got their asses handed to them against Northwestern. But what I'm happy to say is that I've seen improvement from this defense from week to week. They've gotten better as a unit from week to week, especially in the secondary. The secondary, they got a lot of youth out there. They got a lot of guys that I wasn't real sure on how they were going to translate and how they were going to play. And they've gotten better as each week's gone on. That kid's he's a freshman. He's gotten better and better, and he played damn good in this Penn State game. Nick Cross, I know you brought his name up. He's kind of the mystery to me. Not the talent. Like the talent
it's there.
It's obvious, right? And he's played good this year. The mystery, and Ryan and I have talked about this, is we don't know where the best place to play him is. Like, because he could play free. He can be that ball hawking, rangy safety. He has that ability, but he also has that ability to be that strong safety where he can, kind of like Antoine Brooks did last year, where he played inside the box and he played a little bit of linebacker. He played more up.
You can blitz him every once in a while. Yeah.
He's a decent tackler, that kind of thing. He's got the size. So Nick Cross is kind of the wild card in the sense that he's good at everything. So, like, where do you play him, right? And I think that's going to just depend week to week.
That's sometimes players like him, it's actually, they're so good, it hurts them. Yeah. Because you don't know where to play them to let them shine at their highest level. And that's one of the big things. Look, to get to my question and kind of basically get to what I was trying to get at was these top tier Big Ten teams, right? The way that everything has been shaking out this year so far, on paper, we're a top tier Big Ten team this year.
At 3 games in, 2-1. Yeah, we are. Yep.
We're favored in the Michigan game now.
Michigan State.
Michigan State.
We should be.
The Ohio State game would have been the test.
The Ohio State game, I'm really disappointed that they didn't get to play that game. If you didn't know, and we talked a little bit about it, the Ohio State game was canceled due to COVID. We got some inside information on that I'm not going to share on the air, but yeah, COVID went rampant due to some guys making some poor decisions after the game. They're college kids, so this is going to happen, but the university needs to, and the coaching staff needs
to buckle down, especially in this
down
time,
and keep these kids in line.
Yeah. But my whole thing is I feel like some of these top tier teams, we've been seeing the struggles. Right?
Yeah. Nobody knows what the hell is happening in the Big Ten right now because it's a cluster. I mean, outside of Ohio State, who else is really dominant in this conference right now? Northwestern? I think they're like the only other one that's like undefeated at this point.
Yeah.
Like they look legit. They whooped our ass in week 1. Again, maybe they're not the most talented as far as 4 and 5 star players.
Continuity
goes for a long way, and these guys are playing inspired football.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of what I'm alluding to.
So is Indiana. I'm sorry, Indiana. That's the other team in the Big Ten. Very good.
It's what I'm alluding to is the fact that I'm worried that it's a false sense to an extent that next year we're going to get a smack in the face. That's going to be like, oh shit, last year was a fluke, right? I think we have talent. I don't know that we have enough in a true season where it starts on time, where everybody's playing, because there are players out there that aren't playing this year because of COVID. I don't know. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I joked around about Tolia earlier, right? And I said, I don't know yet because I haven't seen the top tier defense that he went against. To your point, you said it, your own words. He got his ass whooped.
Here's what I'm going to say. But prior to the season, when we did our predictions and we looked at the schedule, we said 3-4 wins is what we kind of expected out of this team, right? And we went down the games and we went down the list of those 3 or 4 wins. Week 1, they get the doors blown off by Northwestern. And after that game, we're sitting there talking, I don't know where we find a win. We didn't even think we were going to find a win. We started looking through the schedule.
I was questioning 2 wins.
Right. We weren't looking. We were trying to find a win. We were looking at the schedule after getting the Northwestern was a wrap for all of us. We all thought Northwestern would be a definitive win. And we got our asses kicked. And we looked at that schedule and we said, I don't know where the win is. Well, since then, they've won 2 games. The next 2.
Yeah.
Right? So this team's playing good football. Now, granted, Minnesota isn't the best football team in the world. Penn State isn't what they normally would be. I get that. But there's still 2 Big Ten powerhouse teams that played very, very good football last year.
Agreed.
And they still got a ton of talent. I mean, Rashad Bateman for Minnesota is a top 10 NFL, prospect right now. He's a top wide receiver prospect.
In the first round, yeah.
They've got a lot of talent on both of those rosters, and we were able to win both of those games. We're going into a 3rd week now with this next game up against Michigan State, which we're actually favored. The first game this year that we're favored to win.
Against another Big Ten team, yeah.
That means if we win this game, in 4 games, we've won 3.
Which is what you predicted all year for the
right. And 2 weeks ago, we were like, I don't know where a win is.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying, is it a false sense, right? I said
there's some false sense to it because there's a false sense with the entire conference. Nobody knows who is good and who isn't.
And Drew made the point, like they drug their feet. The Big Ten drug their feet with trying to figure this out. It actually took a fight from all these teams and all these programs to say, like the boycotts and the protests and the petitions saying, let us play, let us play, let us play. That's why they're playing right now, because the booster said, you play or you're not getting any money. Let's be real. This is a business.
Right.
These are all businesses. Yes, they do education, but they're dealing. Their product is business, or their product is education. They are a business. So that's why I said what I did. Take a quick glance at this Michigan game real quick. Spartans are 1-3, right? We need to be healthy to play the game, alluding to what you said with the COVID stuff. The game got canceled because we weren't healthy enough to actually be able to comfortably field a team that couldn't potentially transfer COVID to another team. That's why this whole thing got canceled. That's the first thing. Second thing, We got to have a balanced attack in this game. I think we've been seeing it, but it needs to continue.
Yep.
Jake Funk, I expect and hope Jake Funk has another big game in this game. And here's why. Because as far as rushing yards allowed, Michigan State is giving up 150 rushing yards per game on average. I'll take it.
Yeah.
And 242 passing. With the way Talia has been throwing, yes, if we can get that running game going, this could be a 400-yard game, almost 450 for this Terps offense.
I get that. But look at the defensive side for the Terps. Terps are also giving up 250 yards through the air. They're giving up 230 yards on the ground.
That's
They're
the
giving up
flip side.
Almost 550 yards of total offense on the defensive side, right?
And that means you can't let off on the offensive side, but the biggest thing on the defensive side of the ball is you got to stuff the run.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do think Jake Funk has a big day in this game. I wish and I hope Tayon Fleet Davis is available to be able to play in this game, but man, Tayon, let me talk to you for a second.
Fred's going to go one-on-one with you.
Let me just have a talk with you for a second. Papa Fred here. What are you doing on social media, my friend?
Get off.
What are you doing?
Get off.
I get it. It was your boy's birthday. You wanted to give him a shout out on his birthday. But you had a DUI last year. And the picture you choose to give your buddy a shout out is you two in a club with bottles of wine in your hands. Come on, it's not a good look. It's not a good look, my friend. Clean it up, Tayon. I want to see you on the field. I want to see you in the backfield. I want to see you out there with Jake Funk getting yours. We need you. They need you. Do the right thing, kid. Clean it up.
Yeah,
clean it up.
I think you said it perfectly. It was a poor choice, but that comes back to what we said after that Penn State game. Look, I know it was a big win against Penn State, but you got to keep these guys in check for this year. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and you know what's exciting for me is we talked about it during the Ravens segment, right? Last year with the Ravens, I told you, like, I was super confident every time the Ravens offense touched the ball, right? I had this, like, aura about myself, like we were going to score every time we touched the ball. I don't feel that with the Ravens. I feel that with the Terps right now. Every time the Terps touch the ball,
it's been looking good.
I'm excited. There's weapons all over the field. It's so crazy. I forget who I was talking to. It might have been Wes on Twitter. I can't remember for sure. But somebody was talking about like the difference over, some of the past Terps teams with some of the NFL talent that we had, but we weren't able to ever do anything with it. And what we're doing right now, and I simply summed it up, is that's how much of an impact having a legit quarterback and having a good offensive line can make. It's the quickest way to turn around a university. It's the quickest way to turn around a football squad. If you can plug in a quarterback that you can rely on, which we haven't had in, 2 decades. Yeah. It feels like it's been forever. We haven't had a good quarterback. And you've got an offensive line that can give that quarterback time. This offense is exciting. He can throw the ball. He can move the ball. They've got wide receivers everywhere, which all that does is allow Jake Funk and the running backs to shine.
Yeah.
We need to see those freshman running backs, to Ryan's point. We need to see those freshman running backs, Isaiah Jacobs and Big Boy.
Need to step up.
Step up and get moving in this offense.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, it's time for this week's rundown. What do we got to start out here on?
This week we got to talk about the Masters. World number 1 PGA Pro. What the fuck was that?
It's just the Masters theme music.
I think you need to go back to the studio and work on that, Fred.
I try it again.
World number 1 PGA Pro Dustin Johnson put on a show at the Masters this weekend and showed why he is truly the best in the world right now. Because he finished his 72-hole score was 268. That's 20 under par. He broke the Masters record, which was set by, I remember this, was set by Tiger back in 1997. And the biggest reason I remember this, God rest his soul, Robin Williams made a joke on this about
Hello!
that is the best Mrs. Doubtfire I've heard in a long time. That was pretty good. We're gonna have to get into your impressions.
Yeah, and it starts and ends with Miss Doubtfire. That's where it goes.
Don't be cross dressing out here, friend.
Oh,
geez. Anyway, so the reason I remember is because Robin Williams did a whole skit in 2005 or 2006. Robin Williams live on Broadway, and he did a whole portion of his skit on Tiger, and it was about how Tiger's coming in, and he's like, and all the old waspy motherfuckers in golf are sitting there looking at Tiger, going, "Oh dear God, he's 18 under par after 18 holes. We're fucked." Like, it was just it's crazy. That's why it always sticks in my mind. Then Jordan Spieth in 2015 tied that record.
Yeah.
And that was at 270. He finished 2 more under par. That was 18 under par that those guys finished. He finished 2 more under par. That's difficult.
Right.
Especially the Masters, which I'll have to tell you later about the conversation I had with my neighbor, who he's a PGA golf pro. He has a PGA card, and he's up at Bully Rock. He's the pro up there. So if you ever need lessons, I know Joe Corlozo has actually seen him. So make sure you guys go see him. His name's Matt up at Bully Rock if you ever need lessons. But he's been to Augusta.
Yeah.
And he was telling me how hard that course is during the spring. He was like, the fall? Jesus, I can't even imagine.
I'm going to show you how little I know about golf outside of Tiger Woods, Greg Norman, and all that stuff.
That's a throwback.
This is sad, and I hate the fact that we're even talking about golf and that I host a sports podcast and I'm about to admit this on live air. I didn't know Augusta was in the United States until this year. I legit did not know that.
Georgia.
I had no idea.
It's in Georgia.
I did not know. I legit thought it was in like fucking Europe somewhere. I had no idea Augusta was in the United States until this year. I looked it up. I'm like, it's a beautiful course. I've always thought that about this place. I'd love to go there, but it's probably $1 million to. Oh, it's in Georgia.
It's the Masters is by invite only, by the way.
Wow.
You have to apply.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. But yeah, good on Dustin Johnson.
Yeah.
The guy did really well.
Kudos to that guy.
Just really, really impressive. Fucking Augusta's out of the country.
I don't know.
What do you think, Georgia?
I would assume the U.S. Open is in the U.S. Maybe.
Maybe.
All right, moving on, man. All right, so let's move over to a topic I at least know a little bit about. The NBA, right? So there's been a lot of moves, a lot of trades going on over the past couple of days as teams try to kind of retool themselves after the year for next year.
The guy that starts in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, right. The guy that keeps just getting passed around like a $2 bill, Chris Paul.
Oh yeah.
Apparently, the Phoenix Suns have now agreed in principle on a deal to acquire Chris Paul. The deal is going to send Paul and Nader to the Suns for Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, Ty Jerome, Jalen, I don't even know the guy, and a 2022 first-round pick. Look, maybe Chris Paul isn't quite the player that he once was when he was, in his heyday. What the fuck is going? Why is this guy just keep getting passed around from team to team?
So Paul wanted to go to OKC.
Yeah,
and they made that he was part of that big Russell Westbrook trade.
Right.
And then now he wants to get out of OKC. So they agree and trade him to the Suns. And I forget the guy's name. The Suns have a pretty decent guard over there.
Oh, yeah. It's Booker.
Yeah. So he's going to join him. Right. So the Suns are trying to step up their game. They go out and make this trade happen. I think personally, I like Chris Paul, but he's starting to get up there in age a little bit.
Yeah, he definitely is.
And so I question, is the talent still there? There's different things, but it's apparently there is something going on in shit. It's not the Phoenix Suns. Where was Harden? Where was Harden at? Jesus Christ.
Houston?
Houston. There's something going on in Houston.
Yeah,
he wants out.
Harden wants out too. Russell Westbrook said he wanted out.
He wants to go play with Kyrie. Harden does.
Well, that's what's happened. Is Harden's trying to form that that 3-piece super team up there in Brooklyn with KD coming back now after his injury. Kyrie Irving and Russell or Harden.
Yeah, Harden, if they can make that happen. Yeah, it'd be a good
It's crazy to me that players can just dictate this though, Be like, it's one thing to be like, you know what? I'm not happy. I want to trade. But to be like, you know what? I don't want to play here anymore. I want to go play with my friends in Brooklyn.
Right.
Like,
I don't want to go anywhere but there, and you're going to make it happen.
And you're going to make it happen. He apparently turned down a $50 million contract a year.
He would have been the highest paid player per year dollar-wise in the NBA.
Hold on.
He turned it down.
If you didn't hear that, he turned down $50 million a year because he wants to go chase a title, which I get. I understand the ultimate prize is to win an NBA title. And if you don't feel like you're doing that, especially when you're on the back half of your career like that, I get that. But he turned down $50 million.
Drew says that's why I can't follow the league anymore.
It's ridiculous. I agree. It all started with the whole LeBron thing. I know, there's some people that say, oh, well, Jordan had a super team. But Jordan had that team drafted to him, and he made those players better into what they were. LeBron put the puzzle pieces together himself. It started there. And now you're seeing all these other teams kind of do the same thing. The Clippers tried to do it down there, and it never worked out for them. You see pieces try to bundle together. I know
the Bulls tried it and it failed.
Right.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And then now I heard Giannis is once away from the Bucks too. If they aren't willing to get somebody around him.
Well, the Giannis or the Bucks just made a big deal too. They got Drew Holiday, I think. Drew Holiday in a trade. They gave up a ton of stuff to get him though. So they got some pieces moving down there. But all right, let's switch it up. MLB.
Yeah.
Not Florida Marlins. Miami shows how old I am.
Yeah, throwback.
Miami Marlins made some historic news.
Yeah, so they hire Kim Yang, which is their new general manager, and she makes Major League Baseball's first female GM. So history made here. She's 51, but for those of you that are like, okay, where does she come from? What's her background? She was MLB's senior vice president of baseball operations for the past 9 years.
Yeah.
Oh, and wait.
She's been in baseball for 30 years.
Oh, I was saying. Oh, and wait. She also was on teams in the Yankees and the Dodgers when they won rings.
Yeah.
So
this is a long overdue move for somebody to make, whether it was going to be the Miami Marlins or whoever it was going to be.
This woman
was overqualified for the position.
This woman has been involved with the playoffs 8 times between the Yankees and Dodgers and won 3 World Series between those 2 teams, right? She is the highest ranking Asian American female baseball executive, period. And now she's the first GM. She continues to make history. I saw a picture of her, and I had to put it up here. Her out there with a glove.
Yeah.
In the outfield, fielding fly ball.
I love it.
Credit to her. Like she's out there. Mike Elias. I like Mike Elias. He's not even out there fielding balls like that.
Right.
She's out there doing it because she is in tune with the game. And I tell you what, you got Derek Jeter's respect.
Yeah.
I'm looking your way.
Right.
This ain't no like, oh, we're just going to make history. This is, she knows baseball.
100%.
And she's going to make it work. The last thing I want to get to on MLB before we flip over, we have to quickly talk about it, is what happened this week with the MLB awards. Now, these are posthumous awards because it was a shortened season.
Yeah.
But let's just run through these. I want to get your quick take. AL and NL MVP. I don't know if you saw Freddie Freeman and Abreu.
Yeah. I think both good choices.
Great choices here.
Braves made a deep run into the playoffs. I mean, Freddie Freeman, he's been playing outstanding baseball for the past few years. Jose Abreu, since he's been, picked up by the White Sox and come into the league, he's done big things. He had 60 RBIs in the shortened season.
Yeah.
Was second in home runs with 19, fourth in average with 317. I mean, you can't
deny,
argue it.
You can't deny any of that.
Yeah.
You just can't. Cy Youngs. These were both slam dunks to me.
Agreed.
Like, it shouldn't have never been an argument. And it wasn't in the case of the American League, as Shane Bieber, first unanimous choice since 2011 for the AL Cy Young Award. He had a 1.63 ERA, which is the lowest qualified ERA, get this, since 1969. Same year was also the lowest opponent's average since 1969. He had let his opponents sit an average of 167.
All why it was unanimous. It was a no-brainer.
Exactly. And the other guy, Trevor Bauer. How can you not love this guy? I love Trevor Bauer.
I do too. I love his personality. He's great to follow.
He's got attitude
on Twitter,
but he also gets baseball. 1.73 ERA.
Yep.
276. His ERA plus is 2.76. His WHIP 0.79.
Ridiculous.
Not even giving up one walk and hit per inning.
It's ridiculous.
Crazy. Opponent's average. We talked about the 167. That's the AL. He left 159 opponents hit against him.
Only person hitting below that, Chris Davis.
Yeah, and 2 shutouts in that. Rookie of the Year awards, unanimous selection for Kyle Lewis, the Mariners player.
Ryan, you're such a child.
So crazy. Devin Williams for the National League, who had a 0.33 ERA. He was coming out of the Penn for that, but I get it, 100%. He fanned a record 53% of his 100 batters faced. So crazy there. AL and NL coaches of the year, manager of the year, Kevin Cash from the Rays. And you had Don Mattingly from the Marlins. No mistake.
Both
there.
of those guys with 2 of the lowest payrolls in baseball with the Rays and the Marlins. That was a no-brainer. Kevin Cash, man, what he was able to do.
And I'm not going to get into the Silver Slugger and Gold Gloves, but let's just leave it this way at the Platinum Gloves. Alex Gordon for the AL. I agree with that. Great outfielder, probably top outfielder in the game. And NL, how could you not? Nolan Arenado gets the Platinum Glove. Third base, he's been playing better than Manny ever did. Good for him.
No rules. No boundaries. 2 topics. 30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning.
All right, guys, time for the 2-minute warning.
I guess I'll ask the questions this week.
All right.
You can, or no.
We don't have our staff here.
No.
Are we paying these guys?
Thank
Are we
God,
paying them?
no.
Or are they taking like PTO?
Because we don't make profit anyway. It doesn't matter.
We're a non-profit here at Birdland BS.
Right. We're working on donations.
We're every which of the word non-profit here at Birdland BS.
All right. Actually, no. We switched it up. You're asking the questions. I'm going to answer first.
All right.
So go ahead. Let's get the first question out there. What's the first question? Oh, what are you doing?
I don't know. The Baseball Hall of Fame ballot was released, and there are a lot of names with the asterisks of steroids next to it. Is this the first year someone gets selected?
Well, if you can do things right, maybe. No, I do think this is the year that somebody gets selected to it. You have a lot of the top guys off the ballot last year that didn't quite make it. Clemens is one of them. I think he probably makes it in this year. I think this is the first year you do see somebody make it. And for all you motherfuckers on the Baseball Writers Hall of Fame, you need to fucking petition. If you're going to put them fuckers in, you better put Pete Rose in next year.
I'm right there with you. I think it has to happen at some point. They got to open the door. It starts with one, and then that's all it takes. Once you get one of them in there with the quote-unquote asterisks next to it, it opens the door for everybody else. And you took the words right out of my mouth, including Pete Rose for gambling purposes. I think that maybe this is the year. I think it could potentially happen. The NCAA announced that they, in 2021, March Madness, the basketball tournament, will be held in one geographic area. Is this the right move?
So they're reporting that it's going to be in Indianapolis. That's the top place for it to be held. I think it absolutely is the right move for them to hold the tournament in that. But you got to get to the fucking tournament to begin with.
Yep.
What the hell are you going to do the rest of the season?
Yeah.
Figure it out. I don't care.
I definitely think this is the right call. Putting them in this bubble in a one city tournament. But you're right. There's a lot of hurdles in the road that they're going to have to get over. We're getting ready to get into the thick of things with COVID, with numbers every day continuing to rise and rise and rise.
That's why we don't have our staff.
Yeah, we're already seeing fans being pulled out of the NFL games again. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not real optimistic for a basketball season. I know it's right around the corner.
I hope we get March Madness this year, but
I really do. They took it from us last year. I can't stand that they could potentially take it again this year. I think we're going down that path, man. I really do. All right, Scott, man, good show for just the two of us, and it was a lot for us to fall back on, just being the two of us.
You know what I'm so proud of?
What's that?
That you didn't break out into song with just the two of us.
Just the two of us.
Damn it, I almost went the whole show. God damn.
All right, Scott.
Oh, guys, make sure you check us out on birdlandbs.com, www.birdlandbs.com. While you're there, check out all of our episodes, learn about each of us, contact us, and get yourself some Birdland BS gear. I think it was, it might have been to Sean that asked where you can get the shirt. birdlandbs.com. That's where you get it. Visit bigplay.com, Big Play Twitter page, and download the Big Play app. If you also want to check us out on there, birdlandsports.com as well. Follow us on all of our social media sites, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram. We're there on everything at Birdland BS is how you find us. If you want to see Fred, at Fred BLBS.
You want to see Fred?
Yeah.
We got a cam feed.
You.
It's weird.
Shh, I installed a cam.
I'm sure you did. Knowing you probably have cams in my car. You got them everywhere.
What do you think you did while we dropped off for your car? Anyway, make sure you check out Fred at Fred BLBS, at Scott BLBS. You also can make sure you check out at Bartender Blake, at James Bond 2032, at Fred or at Terps at Terps BSbert. I forget his name.
That's all, folks.
It's just words. Like, follow, subscribe with all of us, and be a part of our Birdland BS Nation and our Birdland BS family. You want your opinion or topic heard? Make sure you also email us. Email us birdlandbs@gmail.com. Email us your questions. We will bring them up on the show.
For sure.
If you've got a great 2-minute warning question, email us. Even if it's the day of the show, reach out to us. Audio version of the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast.
Spotify, everywhere.
Everywhere. Make sure you go check it out. Leave us a review while you're there. Thanks for tuning in, as always. We'll be back next Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll see whether it's in person or virtually. We'll figure this out week to week. For Fred, myself, Bartender Blake, Terps BSbert, Drew, James, we'll see you sometime.
See you guys. Time for the after party.
It's a nice call for alcohol.
Man. Good show.
We hit 100 comments like really early, but I think it's because we had Drew,
man,
Ryan, James all commenting.
Ryan saying that shit's hard. Ryan tried to do it when you weren't here, man. He struggled. He struggled.
It's a struggle, man. I'm
telling you, the best way to do it is the way I did it. Just fucking don't even read it. Just use it as bullet points and just spout, just freestyle it.
Which is weird because I usually do better freestyle.
I know.
But this, for some reason,
you try to read it every time.
I do way better with freestyle. I've done so many different things freestyle, and it winds up working out.
Drew brought up a good point, man. With everything that's going on right now with COVID and all, you got a shot here. So cheers to all, the first responders out there, all the nurses, all the doctors putting their lives and their family lives on the line every day that they go to work and just do their jobs. Appreciate you, Ryan. Appreciate your entire family. Appreciate you, Kaylee. Appreciate you, Ariel. All my friends out there. Brittany, if you even watch the show, I don't even know if you do. All of my nurse friends out there, I appreciate you.
And to all the people out there that are working on the, not just the front lines of that, but the people that are having to go to work every day and expose themselves. I love my wife. My wife has to go out every 100%. Day, and she comes home. She literally, no joke, she comes home now. She strips down, gets right in the shower, like doesn't touch anybody, doesn't touch anything, just because we're seeing the peak again. So cheers to all of you guys, and this one's for you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Oh, man. There was a ton of people commenting out there.
I didn't even get a chance, man. My brain was so focused on everything else going on, I didn't even get a chance to really read a whole lot of the comments. So
I do want to put it out there. Ryan got beat by the Bears defense this week in fantasy football.
James, I'm not even bringing that up. Not even bringing that up.
You mean the trade?
Shut up.
Trade?
Not even going there. I'm not going to put
I think our fans might like it.
I'm not throwing him under the bus in the middle of the show.
It's the end of the show. It's not the middle.
Yeah. Listen, all right, for all those out there that are in the Birdland BS, I got to put a disclaimer out there, okay? So I made a trade this week in the Birdland BS Fantasy League. It started with a ridiculous offer. You know the old saying, shoot for the stars, land on the moon? Well, that's kind of what this trade offer was.
You're in the fucking Milky Way.
It was basically, it was a starting point. It was a, hey, I want Devontae Adams, and I want Stephon Diggs, and I want Nakeem Hines.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you my two starting wide receivers. I'm going to give you DJ Moore, Cooper Kupp, But on the flip side, where you're going to lose in the wide receivers, I'm going to give you benefit in Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah.
I know that they signed Le'Veon Bell, and he hasn't quite been what we all hoped Clyde Edwards-Helaire would be, but I think optimally he's going to have a good rest of the season moving forward. So I thought, all right, that's my offer to start. Somewhere Joe's going to counter, and then we'll go back and forth and see if we can make a trade happen. I offered that, and within 3 minutes, I got a text that said he was at a funeral, and I felt bad about it. Didn't realize.
But you didn't retract the trade.
I didn't retract the trade because I didn't even have time. 2 minutes after that, he went in there and approved the trade.
Because he trusted you, Fred. He trusted you to give him a
Listen,
real offer.
I didn't hold a gun to his head. I didn't offer him any money for the deal. There was no bribery. I was shocked, to say the least. I didn't even want to bring it up.
Drew says you literally told that man both sides benefit from the trade. Blew my fucking mind.
I'm a sales guy, Drew. Do you not know that about me? I am a sales guy. I've been in sales my entire life. Everything about sales is a lot of BS. That's why this show is called Birdland BS.
Because Fred's just full of shit.
I mean, maybe I am. Maybe that's why I'm a successful sales guy.
Maybe.
I
did see you at work today. It was pretty good.
The couple calls that I made because you were on conference calls singing to people all day long. I don't know what the fuck was going on. So, I'm sitting here, Scott singing Mighty, Mighty Titans. I'm like, what is happening right now? Are we working?
To be clear, we have a leadership conference, and one of the things that my boss is like, oh, well, I have to do a presentation, so I'm going to bring you guys in, and you're going to sing the chant from Remember the Titans. We are the Titans when they do the dance and the clap and they're chanting, right?
I know it very well now.
Yeah.
Like I've got it burned in my memory.
You do. Anyway, so my boss, he was literally very serious about this, that we had to practice this and be prepared because it's tomorrow. So he's like, you need to get this together. And it was 24 hours notice. So we got it together. Meanwhile, Fred's sitting over here, and every time I get on the call and we start chanting, he hears it coming from my computer, and he just puts his head down and just starts shaking.
Mind you, they're doing this in like segments. So there's 10 people in there or whatever it is, and they've each got a part in this Mighty Mighty Titans song that they got to sing. And all I keep hearing is Scott's end of it. And they do it. They must have rehearsed this thing like 40 times.
It was like 4 or 5.
No, it was a lot more than 4 or 5. It was like 4 or 5 in like a minute of like 10 minutes, a span of like 10 minutes. Oh, it was ridiculous. But whatever. I mean, you got paid to sing a song today.
Hey, I did.
Good for you, Scott.
I did. And then I got roped into something last minute that I got to get off of here and immediately start working again. Be ready for 9 a.m. tomorrow morning for a large conference call. So much fun.
Coffees for closers. I love it.
Yeah. No, I did want to bring up the whole piece about the Hall of Fame ballot. Like, no joke, I will not take, and I will say it right now. You hold me to it. If the Baseball Writers of America induct a Hall of Famer this year that has an asterisk, that the fans consider has an asterisk, I am lighting up every single one of their Twitter accounts and saying, if you're going to vote for that, then all of you need to back Pete Rose.
So let me ask you this question, right? So because that's I told you that's kind of where my mind went with it too, and I just don't know how this whole thing works, right? So hold on. So Pete Rose is not on the ballot this year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do they have, when they're voting for Hall of Famers, is there a write-in spot? Like, can they write somebody in that's not on the ballot?
So no.
They can't.
It has to be a decision if something like that's going to happen. And it basically, it has never happened in history.
The reason I'm saying that is because I think if they're going to elect somebody with a quote unquote asterisk, whatever that asterisk may be, whether it be steroids, gambling, whatever it might be, if they're going to elect somebody with an asterisk, I think that the baseball writers would be smart enough to have that conversation, exactly what you and I are talking about, that, hey, if we're going to do this and we're going to break the mold and we're going to allow this into the Hall, Pete Rose has to be 1A and 1B as far as getting elected in along with this person. So collectively, we all need to write in Pete Rose if we're all going to make this decision to write somebody in.
So let me give you some backstory here, right? The reason, so technically, by rules, of the Hall of Fame, Pete Rose could be on the ballot.
Manfred's got him banned right now.
MLB has him banned. The MLB is technically a separate entity from the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame runs itself.
Yeah.
They just chose to align themselves with MLB. And I was listening. I was actually going back after I saw the ballot. I started looking at Pete Rose like videos. And it was on Dan Patrick's show that they were talking about Pete Rose.
Sure.
And it was a few years ago that they were talking about Pete Rose. And the one of the Danettes brought up the rule about gambling. The problem is that rule was written after Pete Rose was fine. They like drew the line, said he's banned and you're gonna do this. And then they put the rule in that you're banned for life. The rule wasn't there prior to Pete Rose being banned. Just to be clear. Hall of Fame aligned themselves with MLB that he was banned. So they banned him from the ballot. Even though technically they don't have, he could be in the Hall of Fame right now. They've chosen to align themselves with that. So that's why I'm saying, if you're going to choose to let someone in.
So Manfred really has no say over
The Hall of Fame
Hall of
ballot.
Fame
Nope.
ballot at all.
Nope.
The Hall
It's
of
just-
Fame ballot is its own committee that decides on who's on that ballot.
It's his entity to be associated with MLB. He can't manage. He can't be a coach in MLB. He can't do anything. Which, in my opinion, you and I have seen the videos. I watched a ton of videos after that Hall of Fame ballot came out. Pete Rose would be a top tier manager in this game of baseball right now. Because the whole video about choking up, choking down, up in the box, back in the box.
How old is Pete Rose at this point, though?
He's like 75.
So he's
80.
like almost
Somewhere
like Tony La Russa's age, who just got hired as the White Sox head coach.
Right. I mean,
Manager.
he could be associated with that. But nothing stops him from being in the Hall of Fame except for the Hall of Fame themselves because they chose to do that. So if they're going to choose.
I'd hate to see Pete Rose eventually get inducted into the Hall of Fame, like after he dies.
Yeah.
As like a petty thing, is like, oh, we feel bad for him, so now we're gonna let him in. Let the man enjoy it. At least for a couple of years, the last couple of years he has of his life. At some point they're probably going to let him in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it was back in 2017 that he was allowed. He wasn't technically associated with MLB. It was a choice of the Cincinnati Reds to invite him to a ceremony honoring guys like Ozzie Smith, Johnny Bench, right? And they invited Pete Rose. His first time actually being in an MLB ballpark where he wasn't a fan.
Right.
So it's one of those things that if that took a leap, if the writers take a leap this year and put somebody in that has what fans consider as an asterisk next to their name, I will light them all up because I will be saying you need to be petitioning. Not that MLB, if MLB doesn't ever accept him, fine, whatever. MLB's lost as far as I'm concerned because of his ability to coach.
So I kind of agree with Drew on this point. He says, I don't think Rose should be involved on the field or in the front office, but he should be in the Hall of Fame. I kind of agree with that. And I only say that because the betting and the gambling and all that stuff happened while he was coaching. Right. So like, that's all of the
apparent things that were evidence.
Well, he admitted to it.
But they all point to the fact he bet on his team. He never bet against his team.
I get that. Like, I don't know. Like, it was a poor decision. It was.
I don't disagree with that. But to ban the man from the Hall of Fame
no.
and
I
from
agree.
baseball.
Like I said, I agree with his take. I think he should be allowed into the Hall of Fame based on his play. Because he's one of the greatest hitters, if not the greatest hitter.
He is the greatest hitter outside.
And
if you want to argue about Ichiro with his stuff.
Ted Williams, Ichiro, you can argue those three guys. 100%.
Pete Rose, in the MLB alone, Pete Rose's record, and he said it in one of his videos that I watched, Pete Rose's record will not be broken so long as Pete Rose is alive.
And I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that at all.
I don't foresee it being broken in a long period of time because he brought up the point. Guys don't play with injuries anymore.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I don't think it could ever. I think this could be. I know it's. We always say.
That's why I think Cal Ripken's streak will never. I mean, they always thought that Lou Gehrig's would never be broken, and Cal Ripken came along. I don't think Cal Ripken's will ever be broken because of the same factor.
Right.
Guys just don't play through injuries right now, and teams look at players as assets versus them being players. You know what I mean? They look at them as property versus players. So I don't know. I agree with you, Drew. I do think he should be in the Hall of Fame. I just don't think he should be on the field as a manager. That's just my take.
He did say, "I've always thought they will just wait until posthumous horrible." Yeah, and it was super gracious when the Reds did that. Yes, he was. He was very gracious. He went about that. Ryan says it wasn't a Black Sox scandal. The Black Sox scandal. If you read about it, if you actually do your research,
Shoeless Joe.
It was the same situation. They bet on themselves.
People will come, Ray.
People will come. Great movie.
Great movie.
But no, like that's the thing, and that's the next level, right? If you're gonna let Pete Rose in, Shoeless Joe has to be in the Hall of Fame for his numbers alone.
Right. I mean, like I said, I think that's part of the reason that they haven't just jumped the gun and done it with one guy is because of the collective amount of incidents or the collective amount of people that they'd have to let in. If they let in one person with steroids, they got to let everybody.
The only problem that I heard, and I think it was Ken Rosenthal that kind of said it was, if you let
Drew
these
says
guys
you got that wrong, Scott. They threw the series.
No, they did not. Look at Shoeless Joe Jackson's fucking numbers. Are you fucking kidding me? Go do your research, Drew, before you make that comment. They didn't throw the fucking series. Look at Shoeless Joe Jackson's number and tell me he threw the fucking series. Shut up with that. I love you, Drew, but do your research before you do that. I've done a lot of research on Shoeless Joe.
That was the claim was that they threw this series. But to your point, yeah, I mean, I've watched a lot of Field of Dreams in my day.
That's like the whole thing with Pete Rose. Yeah. He never made a decision that put things in question that said, let's put it this way.
He says Jackson was not in on it. Yes, they did. Jackson was not in on it.
Why do you think Jackson was being blamed for it? Jackson was being called the ringleader. I'm telling you, dude, go do your research. Seriously.
We'll have to save this topic discussion for another show.
This could be another one. But where was I going with this? Ken Rosenthal or somebody was saying the fact that
you won't like me when I'm angry.
Yeah, they were saying that when it leads to this stuff, it's the problem becomes where's the line?
Yeah,
because everything. If you went and you say, okay, this is the case, where's the line? The problem with getting him in is all of these older guys that care. A Scott Garceau, for example, who is on the Baseball Writers Hall or Baseball Writers Association and gets a vote. Mm-hmm. The guys like him that care, they're falling by the wayside, which opens the door for Pete Rose. However, how much do these young guys know and care about Pete Rose?
Right.
It's hard to say, right? Because these are guys that these are the guys that are our age, grew up with guys, like Cal. Like a LaTroy Hawkins, like an Andy Pennant. Andy Pennant, who's on this. Vlad Guerrero. All these guys, right? Manny Ramirez, who's also on the ballot this year.
Yeah.
That's who these guys get. Nick Swisher's another one that's on the ballot this year.
Nick Swisher?
Nick Swisher's on the ballot. I don't think
on the Hall of Fame ballot?
Yeah, I don't think he should be getting it.
Get out of here.
Yeah. The Hall of Fame ballot, just to kind of go through and give everybody a real quick rundown.
I need to evaluate who's putting this ballot together if Nick Swisher's on there.
Bobby Abreu, Barry Bonds, Mark Burley, AJ Burnett, who I think is a Hall of Famer in my opinion.
AJ Burnett?
Yeah.
I mean, I know he played for some shit teams.
And did well with those shit teams.
He did. I mean, but a Hall of Famer?
I think he is.
Like, I equate him with Scott Erickson. Like, I think Scott Erickson had some really good years when he was here in Baltimore. He had some really good years when he was in Minnesota.
AJ Burnett was good throughout his career.
Yeah, but
I'd have to look at his numbers.
I don't know.
But then, all right, Roger Clemens, Michael Kadire, Dan Herron, LaTroy Hawkins, Todd Helton. Tell me if you think any of these guys should be in. Tim Hudson, Torrey Hunter, Andrew Jones. Check mark for him on me.
Andrew Jones, Torrey Hunter.
Torrey hurt his career towards the end. But
Torrey played a little too long, but he had a great career for a long time.
He did. Jeff Kent, Andy Pennant. I'd check off Andy Pennant.
Andy Pennant, I'm on.
Aramis Ramirez, not so much. Manny Ramirez,
Man, he's a question mark.
He's a maybe because of steroid stuff.
So was Andy Pettit, though.
Scott Rowland.
He was an underrated guy.
Underrated second baseman. Yeah.
Third baseman.
He played third base. He played a little bit of second base. He was a utility guy. He played a little bit of outfield, too, for a little while.
Rowland
played a little bit of outfield
I remember
early in his
third.
career.
I remember played third.
Kurt Schilling.
Definitely check.
Even despite the...
Check.
Okay. Gary Sheffield.
I like Gary. I don't know what his average was, though, career.
I'd have to look it up. Sammy Sosa.
No.
Okay.
I think so. What he did in that short run where he was so dominant because of the steroids was great for baseball, but I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. Some of his moments will be documented in the Hall of Fame because of the moments, but he's not a Hall of Famer.
Nick Swisher.
No.
Shane Victorino.
Good.
I'd say no on that.
Shane Victorino is Nick Markakis for me. Like, I think Nick Markakis is a great player. I don't think, and he'll be in the Orioles Hall of Famer, but he's not a Hall of Famer.
He's not a Hall of Famer,
right.
Omar Vizquel.
I think he's a Hall of Famer. One of the greatest defensive shortstops ever, and played for a long time.
He's a border guy because his defensively, yes. Offensively, his numbers were average.
Ozzie Smith was the same way. Great defensive player. Offense was kind of in.
True.
Hall of Famer.
Billy Wagner. Barry Zito.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think Barry Zito is a Hall of Famer.
I think overall, I think max, there's 3 guys that get in this year. I really think it'll be 2, but I think there's max 3. And one of them I think will be an asterisk, whether it's Clemens, Pettit, or
Manny Ramirez.
No. Kurt Schilling.
Kurt Schilling had steroid accusations.
He was involved in the same thing that Paul Merrill was. He was in that testimony. Yeah,
I just don't remember him.
It was him.
I got so caught up with him and the whole video game bullshit that he was in, and
shit.
the bloody sock and all that stuff. I just don't remember him being caught up in the steroid stuff.
All right.
Appreciate you guys tuning in as always.
Tuning in.
What'd I say? Tuning. Whatever. They're just
tuning in. You getting that Tua vibe.
We'll see you guys next week.
We'll see you guys.
See ya.